The pension is marital property, so half is mine. Craig said it from the witness stand. He didn't look at the judge when he said it. He looked at me. We were in an open courtroom at the Olmsted County Courthouse. The room was quiet enough to hear someone turning pages behind me. Craig sat straight in his dark blue suit, one hand resting beside the microphone. He looked calm, reasonable even. That was always his best look. His attorney asked, "And what did you understand that to mean?" Craig kept his eyes on me, that I supported Holly's career. We were married. I'm entitled to half. I felt Kayla shift on the bench behind us. She was my grown daughter, Craig's stepdaughter, but she'd spent 12 years treating him like family. By then, she had also spent several months repeating his version of our marriage. I didn't turn around. I kept both hands flat on the table. The judge made a note. Craig's attorney asked another question. Half of what, specifically? My wife's military pension. Not former wife. Not Holly. My wife. The words landed exactly as he intended. Craig had already told people I was hiding money. He'd told Kayla I was using military rules to cheat him. Now he was saying it in court, with me sitting less than 20 feet away. The strange part was that I'd expected it. What I hadn't expected was how easily he said it. To understand how we got there, I have to go back 5 months, to a Tuesday morning at our house in Rochester. I was 54 then, and I was preparing to retire as an Army lieutenant colonel after 28 years of service. I'd completed 3 deployments. I had also spent more mornings than I could count looking for my reading glasses while they were sitting on my head. That Tuesday started with burnt toast. Craig had left 2 slices in the toaster and gone upstairs. The smoke alarm chirped once before I got them out. I opened the kitchen window, waved a dish towel under the alarm, and dropped the blackened bread into the sink. Craig called from upstairs. "Is something burning?" "Your breakfast." I forgot it, I noticed. He came down wearing gray slacks and a white shirt. He was 57, and he worked as a hospitality consultant, mostly restaurants and small hotels. He could walk into a dining room and spot a bad traffic pattern before he sat down. He knew when a menu had too many choices. He could tell an owner exactly why servers kept quitting. At home, he could step over a full laundry basket for 3 days. He kissed my cheek and poured coffee. "You're up early," he said. "I have transition paperwork. I thought you finished that. I finished one part." He smiled. "There's always another part." That was true. Retirement came with appointments, signatures, medical records, benefit elections, and people explaining forms I had already read twice. The year before, I'd attended a standard retirement briefing where they covered retired pay and divorce rules. I was married with no plan to change that, so I'd made a few notes and filed the handout in the home office. At the time, it felt like routine information. Craig opened the refrigerator. "Did you use the last yogurt?" "Yes." "All of it?" It was 1 yogurt. He stared into the empty refrigerator shelf as if I'd damaged our future. "I'm going shopping later," I said. "Get the vanilla kind." "I know." That was our marriage then, or what I thought our marriage was. Not romantic, exactly, not unhappy either. We knew each other's coffee orders. We watched the local news during dinner. He rubbed the back of my neck when headaches started. I handled insurance and repairs. He planned trips and chose restaurants. We'd married in 2014 after I had already served 16 years. Craig knew the Army wasn't a temporary job for me. He knew there would be long absences, changed plans, and phone calls I had to take in the middle of dinner. He also knew I intended to finish my career. For years, he said he respected that. That morning, he carried his coffee toward the home office. "I printed something for you," he said. "What?" "It's on the desk. I'll look later. It needs a signature." That made me follow him. The office was a small room off the living room. We shared it, though Craig had gradually taken over most of the desk. His client folders stood in neat rows beside the printer. My retirement binder was on the bottom shelf where I had left it. A stack of paper sat in the center of the desk. Craig picked up a pen and placed it on top. "Just sign the marked pages," he said. I pulled out the chair. The first page had our address printed across the top, 814 11th Street Southwest. Below it were the words, Home Equity Application. I read the first page again. Then I looked at Craig. What is this? I told you. It's financing paperwork. You didn't say home equity. I didn't think I needed to give you a vocabulary lesson. His tone was light, but his shoulders had gone tight. I turned the page. The amount was large enough to make me stop. What are we financing? The restaurant opportunity. What restaurant opportunity? He leaned one hip against the desk. The one I mentioned last month. The place near the Civic Center. You said someone asked you to consult. They did. This says we're borrowing against the house. It's an application, Holly. It's not a firing squad. I kept reading. The house was our largest marital asset. We still had a mortgage, but we'd built equity. Craig knew exactly how much because I kept the statements in the blue household folder. There were figures filled in for my expected retired pay, $6,300 a month. I tapped that line. Where did you get this? You told me. I told you an estimate. It was close enough. You put it on a loan application because they ask about household income. Who is they? The lender. Which lender? He exhaled through his nose. You're doing that thing. What thing? The interrogation voice. I'm asking who would hold a loan against our house. It's through a local bank. The officer's card is clipped to the back. I turned to the final page. The signature line beside Craig's name was filled in. Mine was blank. Another sheet described the use of funds as business investment and operating capital. I looked up. You're investing in the restaurant? I'd be more than a consultant. What does that mean? It means I'd have a stake. How much? We're still finalizing it. Who is we? Me and the operating partners. You have operating partners now? Craig put down his coffee harder than necessary. This is why I waited to tell you. You didn't tell me. You printed an application. I knew you'd focus on every possible problem. We'd be putting the house behind it. We'd be investing in something real. The paperwork says operating capital. That can disappear in 6 months. So can money in the stock market. That doesn't answer me. No, Holly, it doesn't answer you in the format you like. He stepped away from the desk. I could see the restaurant in his head, the dining room, the opening night. Craig standing near the bar while people asked his opinion. He had spent years advising owners who ignored him, then called him when something failed. He wanted to be the person making the decisions. I understood that part. I didn't understand why he expected me to risk our house without one conversation. Did Kayla know about this? I asked. His eyes moved toward the window. That was the first answer. Craig. I mentioned I was considering an opportunity. What did you tell her? That I might open a restaurant. You told my daughter before you told me? She was excited for me. That wasn't my question. She doesn't treat every idea like a threat assessment. I sat back. There it was. Not just the loan, not just the restaurant. He had already made me the obstacle. I placed the pen beside the papers. I'm not signing this. Craig stared at me. You haven't seen the projections. You didn't include projections. They're being updated. You don't have final terms with the partners. We have an understanding. You used my retirement estimate as income, our income, and you want to secure it with the house, our house. Then it requires both of us to agree. He picked up the pen. You're retiring. We need something that's ours. I thought I'd misheard him. What do you mean, ours? He looked away. You've had your career. My career supported this household. I supported your career. I never said you didn't. I moved when you needed to move. I handled things when you were gone. I built my work around your schedule. Yes, you did. And now I have one opportunity. Then show me a business plan. I shouldn't need permission. You need my signature. His face changed. It wasn't anger at first. It was embarrassment. I'd reduced the whole conversation to the one fact he couldn't charm away. He folded the application in half, then flattened it again. You always do this. Do what? Make sure you have the final say. This is the first time I've seen these papers. You know what I mean. No, I don't. You walk into a room and everyone waits for you to decide. That's my job. We're not at your job. I stood up. No. We're in our house, discussing a loan against it. Craig gave a short laugh. There's no discussion. You already decided. I decided not to sign incomplete paperwork. You decided I'm not capable. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He picked up his coffee and left the room. A minute later, the kitchen door closed. I stayed beside the desk. I wish I could tell you that I immediately understood what had happened. I didn't. At first, I thought Craig was ashamed because the application was premature. I thought he'd cool down, bring me the projections, and we'd have a difficult but normal conversation. Then I noticed the date. The application had been created almost 3 weeks earlier. I checked the pages again. Craig had entered my retirement estimate, our mortgage balance, the approximate value of the house, and the balance in our joint savings account. He'd done enough work to answer every question the lender had asked. He just hadn't done enough to ask me. I found the loan officer's card clipped to the back. The name didn't mean anything to me. I took a picture with my phone, then photographed each page. That was habit, not strategy. In the Army, when a document affected money or responsibility, I kept a copy. Nobody had to teach me that twice. I returned the application to the exact position where I'd found it. Then I went to the kitchen. Craig's burnt toast was still in the sink. His travel mug was gone. The garage was empty. I called Kayla. She answered on the 4th ring. Hey, Mom, I'm walking into work. I'll be quick. Did Craig talk to you about a restaurant? Her voice brightened. Yeah, isn't that great? What did he tell you? That he might finally get his own place. His own place? You know what I mean. A partnership. Did he mention borrowing against the house? The pause was small. It was still a pause. He said you two were working out financing. We weren't. Oh. Did he ask you not to tell me? No. Not exactly. What exactly did he say? Kayla lowered her voice. He said he wanted to get everything lined up before you started picking it apart. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Did he say I agreed? He said you would once you saw the numbers. I saw the application this morning. And I didn't sign it. Kayla went quiet again. Then she said, Mom, Craig's been waiting a long time to do something for himself. I'm not stopping him from working. You know that's not what I mean. No, I don't think I do. She sighed. I really have to go. All right, just don't shut him down immediately. He asked me to put the house up for a loan. I'm not getting in the middle. You're already in it. He told you before he told me. That's not fair. No, it isn't. She ended the call with a quick goodbye. I stood there holding my phone. Kayla and I had always been close, though not in the daily phone call sort of way. She had her own life. I didn't expect a report every time Craig spoke to her, but he hadn't shared good news with her. He had prepared her. That was the second thing I didn't understand. The third came 20 minutes later. I checked our joint savings account. The balance hadn't changed. No transfer was pending. I checked the home equity account listed with our mortgage. There wasn't one. That was my first small relief. Then I saw an inquiry from the same bank printed on the loan officer's card. It had been made 9 days earlier. I called the bank using the number on its public website, not the card. After I verified my identity, the representative confirmed there was no active loan in both our names. She couldn't discuss Craig's separate communications. Can anything be opened against the property without my signature? I asked. Not a joint home equity loan, she said. I thanked her and wrote down the time of the call. The house was safe for that morning. Our marriage felt less certain. I went back to the office and opened my retirement binder. The briefing handout was still on the bottom behind my benefit estimates. I didn't pull it out. I only checked that it was there. Then I put the binder in my locked document case. I made one more copy of the unsigned application, slid it behind my service papers, and locked that up too. When Craig came home that evening, he walked past the office without looking inside. Neither of us mentioned the restaurant. But before I went to bed, I called the retirement services office and left a message for Carrie Salazar. She called me back the next morning while I was sitting in my car outside the personnel building. Holly, it's Carrie Salazar. Thanks for returning my call. Of course. Your message said you had a question about access to your retirement estimate. I watched two soldiers carry a broken office chair toward a dumpster. Yes. Can anyone besides me request my retired pay records? Not without written authority. Is there someone you want authorized? No. Carrie waited. She was good at that. Some people filled silence because it made them nervous. Carrie let it sit until you decided what you actually wanted to say. I rubbed a spot on the steering wheel. My husband used my monthly estimate on a financing application. Did you sign the application? No. Did you give the lender permission to verify the estimate? No. Then they can't get that verification from us. I looked down at the retirement folder on the passenger seat. What can he request as my spouse? General information. Nothing from your individual record without the proper release. All right? Are you asking about a loan, or are you asking about divorce? The second word made my hand stop. I'm asking about a loan. Okay. She didn't sound convinced, but she didn't push. Carrie told me to check my benefit portal for any authorization forms. I opened it while she stayed on the line. There weren't any. No delegated access. No pending requests. No changes to my direct deposit information. That's clean, she said. So my estimate is still only an estimate. Correct. Your actual retired pay account isn't established yet. And when it is, you'll receive the final paperwork. Keep it with your records. I do. I know you do. That made me smile a little. Carrie had handled retirement briefings for enough officers to recognize the ones who arrived with labeled folders. Mine had tabs. Before we hung up, she said, "If your question changes, call me again." I looked through the windshield. What do you mean? If it stops being about the loan? I thanked her and went inside. That morning, I had a transition meeting with a sergeant who was taking over part of my workload. He had already built a checklist. It was good, but it started with the assumption that every file was where the shared drive said it was. I took him to a storage room downstairs. 3 metal cabinets stood against the wall. The second drawer of the middle cabinet stuck halfway open. He pulled it twice. "It always does that, ma'am. Lift the handle before you pull." He lifted it. The drawer slid out. Inside were old continuity files, inspection notes, and equipment records nobody had scanned. He looked at me. "How long has this been here?" "Longer than either of us wants to admit." "Is all of it current?" "No." "That's why you need to read it. We spent most of the morning sorting what mattered." He found 2 inspection deadlines missing from his checklist. I watched him add them. "That would have been unpleasant," he said. "It still will be, just less surprising." He nodded and wrote down the cabinet location. I liked working with people who wrote things down. It meant they planned to remember after I left. Around noon, he asked, "Are you ready for the retirement ceremony?" "I'm ready to retire." That's not the same answer. No, it isn't. The ceremony committee had reserved space at the Rochester Civic Center. It was larger than I wanted. I'd asked for something simple, but 3 units I'd worked with wanted to send people. There would be chairs, a flag display, a short reception, and a table with photographs I hadn't chosen. Craig had offered to manage the food. At the time, I thought it was generous. He understood catering. He knew the Civic Center staff. He could estimate coffee for a crowd without turning it into a math problem. The sergeant closed the cabinet. "My wife says retirement ceremonies are for the family. Your wife sounds wise." She usually is. I returned to my office and stared at the schedule taped beside my desk. I wanted Craig there, not simply in a chair. I wanted him beside me. I wanted Kayla there, too. I wanted one day when the different parts of my life stood in the same room without competing. That mattered more than I had admitted. For years, I'd told myself home was the place where nobody needed my rank. I could leave my keys in the wrong bowl. I could buy the wrong yogurt. I could sit at the kitchen table while Craig complained about a hotel owner who had ignored basic advice. I didn't need to be impressive there. I only needed to belong. When I got home that evening, Craig was making pasta. A cutting board covered half the counter. Garlic skins were scattered near the stove. He had music playing from his phone. It looked so ordinary that I almost doubted the day before. He held out a wooden spoon. "Taste this." I tried the sauce. "Needs salt." "It has salt." "It needs more." He added some without arguing. That was our pattern after a disagreement. Craig would do something familiar, I would accept it. Neither of us would apologize. By dinner, we'd behave as if the argument had ended. I set my bag on a chair. Did you withdraw the application? He kept stirring. It wasn't submitted. There was a bank inquiry. I asked about rates. Did you give them the full application? No. Then why was it completed? So I'd know whether the numbers worked. Do they? He turned off the burner. They could. That isn't an answer. We're about to eat. I looked at the 2 plates beside the stove. Is Kayla coming? She said she might. He'd made enough pasta for 3. I washed my hands. Did you invite her? She was already in the area. She lives 10 minutes away. Craig gave me a tired look. Can we have one evening that doesn't feel like a briefing? I dried my hands carefully. Sure. That was my contribution to the pattern. Craig avoided. I let him. I told myself I was choosing the right moment. Sometimes I was. Sometimes I simply wanted the house to stay quiet. Kayla arrived 15 minutes later with a bottle of sparkling water and a grocery bag. I brought bread, she said. Craig looked inside. The good kind. Mom buys good bread. She buys practical bread. Kayla laughed and kissed my cheek. I took the loaf from her. Practical bread is still bread. You know what he means. I did know. They meant the wide loaf from the bakery counter, the kind that left flour on the cutting board. I usually bought whole wheat because it lasted longer. Craig cut thick slices and warmed them in the oven. At dinner, he and Kayla talked about the restaurant. Neither of them asked whether I wanted to. Craig showed her photographs on his phone. The space had dark wooden booths, an exposed brick wall, and a long bar with brass lights. It needs work, Kayla said. It needs someone who understands the room. You'd change the bar, I'd shorten it. Add 4 tables. I twirled pasta around my fork. Where is it? Craig named a building a few blocks from the Civic Center. I knew the location. The restaurant there had closed in winter. Is it leased? I asked. The current group has an option. What current group? The operating partners I mentioned. You didn't mention who they were. He placed his phone face down. 2 people I've worked with. Are they putting in their own money? Kayla looked between us. Craig reached for his water. Yes. How much? Holly. I'm trying to understand the deal. No, you're looking for the weak point. A loan against our house is a weak point. Kayla lowered her fork. Can we not do this tonight? Craig leaned back. I wasn't going to. I looked at my daughter. Did he tell you about the application? She glanced at Craig, then back at me. He said it was preliminary. He asked me to sign it. Because we're married, Craig said. That's why he needed your signature, Kayla added. I set down my fork. It was such a simple sentence. She didn't mean it cruelly. That almost made it worse. You think being married means I should sign whatever he puts in front of me? No. I think you could hear him out. I am hearing him. You're questioning him. Those aren't opposites. Craig pushed his chair back slightly. This is exactly what I meant. I looked at him. What did you mean? He gave Kayla a small shake of his head. That movement told me they'd had this conversation before. Kayla picked up her napkin. He just feels like there's never room for what he wants. Is that what he told you? Mom, I'm asking. Craig stood and carried his plate to the sink. I'm not doing this with an audience. You invited the audience. Kayla's face tightened. I'm not an audience. No, you're my daughter. That's why I don't understand why he discussed our finances with you before discussing them with me. He was excited, and you wanted to be excited with him. Yes. Her answer came fast. I looked at her plate. She had barely touched the food. When did he first tell you? About a month ago. The application had been created 3 weeks earlier, so before he filled out the paperwork. She nodded. Craig turned from the sink. Don't make this into some conspiracy. I'm establishing the order. That's the same thing in your head. No, it isn't. Kayla stood. I should go. You just got here, Craig said. I have an early morning. She carried her plate to the sink. Craig moved aside for her. I stayed at the table. As Kayla collected her purse, I said, I want you at my retirement ceremony. She stopped. Of course I'm coming. I wasn't sure. Why wouldn't I? I almost said, because you're already choosing sides. Instead, I said, I wanted to ask. Her face softened. I'll be there. Good. She hugged me before she left. I held her for an extra second. She patted my back, then pulled away. Craig walked her to the door. I heard him say, sorry about that. He said it quietly. Not quietly enough. After the door closed, he came back to the kitchen. You made her uncomfortable. You brought her into a financial dispute. She's 31, Holly. She can have an opinion. About our house? About how you treat me. I felt my jaw tighten. How do I treat you? Like I'm part of your support staff. That's not true, isn't it? No. You assign the practical tasks, food, travel, the things you don't want to handle. Then when I want something bigger, suddenly I'm irresponsible. I asked for a business plan. You asked for proof that I'm allowed to want it. I pushed my chair back. I never said you weren't allowed. You never say it. You just keep asking questions until the other person gives up. He walked into the office. I followed him. The application was gone from the desk. Where are the papers? I put them away. Where? My briefcase. Why? Because you're not signing them. Then destroy them. He turned. I'm not destroying my work because you said no once. This isn't a draft menu. It has my financial information on it. Our financial information. My retired pay estimate. He opened the closet and pulled out his briefcase. The application was inside. He removed the pages and held them toward me. Take them. I did. All of them, I said. That is all of them. Any digital copy? Of course there's a digital copy. Delete my information. He laughed once without humor. Anything else, Lieutenant Colonel? I didn't answer. He closed the briefcase and walked upstairs. I stood in the office holding the application. That title had never bothered me at work. In Craig's mouth, it sounded like an accusation. I took the papers to the kitchen and fed them through the shredder beneath the counter. The machine overheated halfway through. I waited for it to cool, then finished. For one moment, watching those narrow strips fall, I felt better. The application in the house was gone, but I still had the photographs on my phone and the copy in my locked case. I cleaned the kitchen alone. I put the leftover pasta in a glass container and wiped flour from the cutting board. Upstairs, I could hear Craig moving from the bedroom to the bathroom. I thought about what he'd said. Some of it was unfair, not all of it. I had spent years solving problems by asking precise questions. At home, I often assumed that being dependable was the same as being open. If Craig said he was frustrated, I offered a solution. If Kayla wanted reassurance, I gave her facts. I rarely said, I'm afraid you'll leave me out. I certainly hadn't said it that night. The next day, Kayla sent me a photograph of a navy dress. Would this work for the ceremony? I stared at the message longer than necessary. I typed, you'll look beautiful. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. Craig says you might cancel the reception. I read that twice. I had never said anything about canceling it. I called her. She answered with, I'm between meetings. I won't keep you. Why does Craig think I'm canceling the reception? He said things were tense because of the restaurant. The retirement reception has nothing to do with the restaurant. I know. Does he? Another pause. He thinks you might not want him handling it now. That was the small piece of truth I'd been missing. Craig wasn't only angry about the loan. He was waiting to see whether I would remove him from the ceremony. Then he could say I'd pushed him aside again. I haven't changed the reception plan, I said. So he's still doing the food. If he wants to. Kayla sounded relieved. Okay, good. After we hung up, I opened my calendar. Carrie had sent an appointment for Thursday afternoon. I accepted it, then placed my retirement binder in my work bag so Craig wouldn't be the person deciding what my questions meant. Thursday afternoon, I carried the binder into Carrie's office and closed the door behind me. She pointed to the chair across from her desk. Did the question change? A little. That usually means yes. Her office was small and too warm. A printer hummed beside a row of locked cabinets. My name and service number were already on her screen. I set the binder on my lap. I need to understand what Craig could reasonably believe my retirement pays for. Carrie folded her hands. I can explain your benefit. I can't explain your husband. That's fair. She opened my current estimate. The monthly amount was the same one Craig had placed on the application, $6,300 in disposable retired pay. Carrie tapped the screen. This is projected monthly income after the deductions shown here. It isn't a lump sum. It isn't a business account. You can use the income however you choose once payment begins. Could a lender count it? A lender may count stable retirement income. Their rules are their rules. Could Craig pledge it without me? No. He can write down whatever number he wants. That doesn't give him control of your account. I opened the binder to my notes from the retirement briefing. One sentence was underlined twice. Only service during marriage enters the marital service fraction. I already knew that. Carrie had explained it to a room full of people the year before. She'd used a whiteboard and a simple example. Years married during service divided by total service years. If a court divided the marital portion, it started with that fraction. At the time, Craig and I were eating takeout in our living room while arguing about which wall needed paint. Divorce had felt about as relevant as flood insurance in the desert. I touched the underlined sentence. This still applies? The basic concept does. Even if a spouse supported the service member's career, that may be part of what the parties argue. The court decides division. But the entire career doesn't become marital because the marriage lasted through retirement. No. Her answer was immediate. I looked at the dates in my file. 16 of my service years came before I married Craig. 12 came during the marriage. That fact hadn't changed because he'd printed my estimate on a loan application. Carrie turned the monitor slightly away. If this becomes a divorce question, don't rely on briefing notes. What would I rely on? A certified retired pay packet. It shows the service record, marriage dates if documented, and the computation information used for review. Can I request one now? You can request your records. A certified packet for legal proceedings usually needs a stated purpose and current information. Are you filing? No. Has Craig said he is? No. Then I wouldn't create a court packet for a case that doesn't exist. That sounded sensible. It also disappointed me. I hadn't walked in wanting divorce papers. I had walked in wanting one clean piece of information that could settle an argument before it grew. Carrie must have seen something on my face. You have enough to protect your access, she said. You confirm nobody else is authorized. Keep your statements. Don't sign what you don't understand. That's it? For now. I closed the binder. Craig says I treat him like he's irresponsible. Is he? I don't know. Carrie leaned back. That seems like the question you came here to answer. I left with no new document. Still, I had one useful fact. Craig couldn't treat the monthly estimate as an account he controlled. Whatever he had promised the restaurant group, my retired pay hadn't promised it for him. I drove home through light rain. Craig's car wasn't in the garage. A note sat on the kitchen counter, at Civic Center, reception tasting, back by 7. He had drawn a line under 7. I checked the time. It was a little after 4. The tasting wasn't on our shared calendar. I called him. He answered over the sound of dishes. What's up? You're at the Civic Center? I left a note. I see it. Who's at the tasting? The event staff. Anyone from the restaurant group? A door closed on his end. The background noise faded. Why would they be here? I'm asking. I'm handling your reception, Holly. That wasn't an answer. He lowered his voice. One of the partners may stop by. Why? He knows food service. So does the Civic Center staff. Do you want me to handle this or not? I want to know what you're doing. I'm trying to make sure your event goes well. Using which caterer? The center. Then why is your partner involved? Craig was silent for a moment. He's helping me look at presentation. Presentation for what? The reception. I looked toward the office. Bring me the catering paperwork when you get home. You already approved the budget. I want to see the current paperwork. Fine. He hung up. I didn't go to the Civic Center. I wanted to. It was less than 10 minutes away. I could have walked into the tasting and seen exactly who was there. Instead, I opened the photographs of the home equity application. The use of funds page listed the restaurant project under a temporary business name. Beneath it was a contact number. I had overlooked it the first time because I'd been focused on the house. I wrote the number on a notepad. Then I waited. Calling one of Craig's prospective partners felt like crossing a line. I could already hear what Craig would say. I was investigating him. I was embarrassing him. I was using my position to control a private decision. None of those things changed the fact that my name, my income, and my house were in the financing packet. I dialed. A man named Dean answered. I gave him my name. His voice warmed immediately. Holly. Yes. Craig's told us a lot about you. I'm sure he has. Congratulations on the retirement. Thank you. Craig said the ceremony's coming up soon. It is. There was a small pause. I kept my voice even. I'm reviewing the financing material. I have a question about the capital requirement. Sure. How much is Craig expected to provide? Dean hesitated. You should probably ask him. I did. He asked me to sign a home equity application without giving me the projections. The line went quiet. When Dean spoke again, he sounded careful. I wasn't aware you hadn't seen everything. That's why I'm calling. Craig said you two were finalizing the bank side. He used those words? Something close to that. What did you understand them to mean? That the funds were available. I sat down at the kitchen table. They aren't. All right. I haven't approved a loan. I understand. Did Craig tell you I had? Not directly. That meant yes, without a sentence I could quote. I wrote down his exact words. When is the money required? I asked. We have a deadline on the space. When? Next Friday. 9 days. What happens then? The option expires. The group either shows evidence of capital or the owner talks to someone else. How long has Craig known? About the deadline? Since last week? And the amount he needs? Longer. I looked at the rain sliding down the kitchen window. Is the retirement reception part of your restaurant proposal? Dean cleared his throat. It's not part of the formal proposal. That wasn't what I asked. Craig thought it might be useful for us to see how he manages a larger event. At my retirement ceremony, he described it as an opportunity to demonstrate the concept. I stopped writing. The reception wasn't huge, but it mattered to me. People were coming from different places. Some had worked with me before my third deployment. Others only knew me from my last assignment. Craig had taken the one family role he'd volunteered to perform and turned it into an audition. Who is paying for the tasting today? I asked. The Civic Center, as far as I know. It's part of the event package, so none of your group's money is involved. No. Are you there? I was earlier. I left about 20 minutes ago. That answered Craig's question about why a partner would be there. Did Kayla attend? No. I don't know Kayla. I hadn't expected him to. Still, I needed to ask. Thank you for being direct with me. Holly, I don't want to get between you and Craig. You're not. He's worked hard on this. I'm sure he has. He believes in the restaurant. I believe he does. Dean waited, perhaps expecting me to reassure him that the money would appear. I didn't. I won't discuss your private financing details with anyone else, he said. My information isn't private from me. You're right. When the call ended, I photographed my notes. The deliberate action had worked. Craig had not simply explored an idea. He had told the group enough to make them believe the financing was nearly complete. He had known about the deadline. He had also used my reception to prove his value without telling me. I had my inconsistency. He said he filled out the application to see whether the numbers worked. His partner believed the funds were available. At 6:40, the garage door opened. Craig came in carrying a white bakery box and a folder. Dessert samples, he said. He placed the box on the counter. I could smell coffee and chocolate. How was the tasting? Good. Was Dean there? Craig's hand stopped on the folder. You called him? Yes. His face went still. You had no right to do that. My income was on the application. You could have asked me. I did. I told you we were working through the details. You told Dean the bank side was being finalized. That's what we were doing. No, you were asking me for permission. You just didn't describe it that way to him. Craig pulled out a chair but didn't sit. What exactly did he say? I'm not going to help you adjust your story. That's not what I'm doing. Then tell me the amount you committed. I haven't committed anything. How much are they expecting? He looked toward the hallway. It depends on the final structure. How much? About $180,000. The home equity application had been for $200,000. I understood the extra $20,000 now. Fees, opening costs, and room for whatever the projections didn't cover. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd say no. You asked me to sign. I thought if you saw the whole opportunity in front of you, you'd understand. You didn't put the opportunity in front of me. You put signature tabs in front of me. He opened the bakery box. Inside were 6 small desserts arranged in paper cups. Craig pointed to one with a chocolate curl. That's what they're proposing for your reception. I closed the lid. Was the restaurant group evaluating you today? His mouth tightened. It was informal. At my event, I'm doing the work. Why shouldn't it help me too? Because you didn't tell me. You don't tell me every time your career helps you. My retirement ceremony is not business collateral. Everything with you is separate. Your career, your retirement, your money. You put the house on the application. And you made sure I remembered it wasn't mine to risk. That isn't what I said. It's what you meant. He took the catering folder and pushed it toward me. Here. Review every line. Call everyone involved. Make sure nobody is planning to enjoy themselves without authorization. I opened the folder. The Civic Center agreement was there. The costs matched the approved budget. No restaurant company appeared on it. Craig hadn't redirected any payment. That was another small relief. Then I found a printed event schedule behind the menu. At the bottom, beside the tasting, Craig had typed a note. Potential partners attending. Demonstration opportunity. I turned the page toward him. You wrote it down. He looked at the note. So you planned this. I plan events. That's why you asked me to help. I asked you to help as my husband. He pulled out the chair and finally sat. I have been your husband for 12 years. Do you think that hasn't cost me anything? I sat across from him. What do you want from me? I want you to stop acting like this restaurant is some foolish hobby. Then give me the business plan. Give me the partner agreement. Give me the lease terms. And if I do, I'll read them. That's all. What are you asking me to promise? He stared at the closed bakery box. I need the capital confirmed by next Friday. I'm not borrowing against the house. Then help me find another way. With what money? He looked at me. Not the kitchen, not the folder. Me. Your retirement gives us options, he said. The word us sounded different now. I closed the catering folder. I'll look at the complete proposal. I won't discuss financing until I have it. Craig nodded once. It wasn't agreement. It was permission to continue the argument later. He went upstairs without eating dinner. I stayed at the table and wrote next Friday on the notepad. Under it, I wrote 2 questions. What had Craig promised? What did he believe my retirement owed him? Then I emailed him from my personal account. Please send the complete restaurant proposal, all financing assumptions, and every document containing my financial information. I copied the message into my locked case. By the time I went to bed, he still hadn't replied. At 6:12 the next morning, an email arrived with 4 attachments. Craig had sent the proposal. The message contained 1 sentence. This is what you wanted. I opened the files before getting dressed. The first was a business overview. The second showed estimated costs. The third was a draft agreement among the operating partners. The fourth was a spreadsheet labeled Funding Scenarios. I printed all of them. Craig came downstairs while the printer was still running. You got it, he said. I did. He opened the refrigerator and took out the orange juice. Now you can see I didn't invent this overnight. I never thought you did. You acted like it. I removed the last page from the printer. Have you signed the partner agreement? It's a draft. That wasn't my question. No. Have they? No. Then nobody is committed. They're waiting for funding. From us. From me. I held up the funding spreadsheet. It lists our house, because that was one option. It's the only complete option. There are 3 tabs. The other 2 have empty cells. Craig poured juice into a glass. I sent you everything. I'm not going to stand here while you find a reason to dismiss it. He took the glass upstairs. I carried the papers to work. During lunch, I closed my office door and read them from the beginning. I wasn't a restaurant expert, but the basic structure wasn't difficult. The group needed money for the lease deposit, renovation, equipment, permits, food, payroll, and enough cash to survive the first months. Craig was contributing his experience and his labor. The other partners were contributing smaller amounts of cash. Most of the money beside Craig's name came from the proposed home equity loan. That answered one question. He hadn't saved private money I didn't know about. He hadn't secured another investor. His share of the restaurant existed only if I signed. The spreadsheet answered the other question. One column listed our current household income. Another listed projected household income after my retirement. My monthly retired pay appeared in full, $6,300. Beneath it, a note said the stable retirement income would support household expenses while Craig reduced his consulting work during the restaurant's first year. I read that sentence several times. The pension wasn't simply evidence that we could repay the loan. It was the plan for paying our regular bills while Craig worked at the restaurant. My retirement would cover the house. The house would finance his investment. His investment would belong to the partner group. The risk stayed with us. I checked every page for my name. It appeared in the funding section and nowhere else. I had no proposed ownership interest, no management rights, no approval rights. I wasn't joining a business. I was supporting it. At 3, Craig texted me. Thoughts? I wrote, I'm still reviewing it. He replied immediately. What else is there to review? I didn't answer. That evening, I spread the proposal across the dining room table. Craig stood near the window with his arms crossed. I pointed to the funding page. Why am I not listed as an owner? You don't want to own a restaurant. That's true. Why am I expected to take the debt? We'd both take the debt. You receive the business interest. We're married. Then why isn't the interest in both names? He looked at the papers. That would complicate the agreement. For whom? The group. But putting the house behind it doesn't complicate anything. You're reducing this to paperwork. It is paperwork. It's a future. I sat back. Whose? Craig shook his head. You have no idea what it's like to spend years being introduced as Holly's husband. I hadn't expected that. People know your name. Your people don't. My people know you. They know me as the man carrying your coat. That isn't fair, isn't it? No. At every Army dinner, every ceremony, every event, somebody asks me what it's like being married to you. Nobody asks what I do. I tell people what you do. Exactly. You tell them. I looked at the proposal. So this is about not being my husband? It's about having something that's mine, funded by something that's ours. His jaw moved. You keep making that distinction when it helps you. What distinction? Mine and ours. I waited. He tapped the page with my retirement income. That pension didn't happen in a vacuum. I know that. I kept the house running. Yes. I adjusted my work. Yes, I was here every time you left. I know. Then stop talking as if I'm trying to steal from you. I'm talking about risk. So am I. No. You're asking me to carry the risk because you feel overlooked. His face reddened. That is not what I said. It's what the proposal says. Craig gathered the pages into a rough stack. You don't get to analyze my life like a failed operation. Leave the papers. They're mine. They contain my financial information. I sent you copies. Then leave these copies. For a second, neither of us moved. He let go. The pages fell back onto the table. I need an answer by Thursday, he said. The deadline is Friday. They need bank confirmation before then. I won't sign the home equity application. You said you'd review the proposal. I did. You didn't consider it. I've been considering it all day. One day, you asked me to sign before I had one day. He walked out of the room. I sorted the pages and placed them in the locked case. That weekend, we spoke about groceries, laundry, and the Civic Center. Nothing else. On Sunday morning, Craig made eggs. He set a plate in front of me and sat across from me with his coffee. "I can reduce the loan," he said. "To what?" $150,000. Where does the other money come from? The partners could increase their contribution. Have they agreed? They might. What ownership would you receive? We're negotiating percentages. Why is that blank in the agreement? It isn't final. Then there's nothing for me to evaluate. He stared into his cup. "You're going to let the deadline pass. I'm not borrowing against the house, even if it costs me the restaurant. The restaurant isn't yours. It could be. So could the debt." He pushed the plate away. "You made your decision before you read anything. I made one decision before I read it. I wouldn't sign incomplete loan papers. After reading it, I made another. I won't risk the house for this proposal." Craig stood. "At least say the real reason." "I just did." "No. The real reason is that you don't believe I can do it." "I believe you could run a restaurant. I don't believe this deal protects us." "Us. Yes." He gave a small nod. "You should stop using that word." He left his breakfast on the table. Later that afternoon, I went to the Civic Center for a ceremony walkthrough. Craig was supposed to meet me there. He sent a message saying a client call had run long. I knew that might be true. I also knew he wanted me to notice his absence. The event coordinator walked me through the room. Rows of chairs faced a low platform. A flag display would stand on the left. The reception tables would be set along the back wall. She showed me where Craig had requested the dessert table. "He has a good eye," she said. "He moved it away from the entrance so people won't crowd the doors." That sounds like him. He also adjusted the serving schedule. It should flow better. I looked across the empty room. Craig was good at this. That was part of what made the situation hurt. I didn't think he was useless. I didn't think his work was small. I'd relied on him so often that I'd stopped noticing when reliance became expectation. He had carried coats. He had also managed moves, canceled reservations when orders changed, and sat alone through holidays I missed. I had thanked him. I wasn't sure I had ever asked what those years had changed in him. The coordinator handed me an updated schedule. "Do you still want Craig as the reception contact?" The question was practical. She had no idea what sat on our dining room table. "Yes," I said. That answer cost me something. It meant I was still trusting him with a day I couldn't repeat. It also meant I was separating the ceremony from the loan, even though he hadn't. When I got home, Craig was in the office. "I left you on the reception contact list," I said. He turned from the computer. "Why wouldn't you?" "Because you used the tasting for the restaurant group. You called Dean. I think we're even. This isn't about being even." "No, it never is, with you." I set the updated schedule on the desk. "If you still want to handle the reception, I won't remove you." He read the top page. "Thank you." The words were polite. His face wasn't. "Handling the reception doesn't change my answer about the house. I understood you the first time." "Good." On Wednesday evening, he asked again. This time, he brought a revised spreadsheet. The loan amount was lower. The expected restaurant ownership was still blank. My full retired pay was still listed as household support. I placed the spreadsheet back in front of him. No, he didn't argue. He closed the laptop and carried it upstairs. Thursday morning, I sent 2 emails. The first went to the bank officer whose card had been attached to the application. I stated that I did not consent to a home equity application, did not authorize verification of my retired pay, and would not sign loan documents for the restaurant project. The second went to Dean. I told him I had reviewed the proposal and would not provide our house, my retirement income, or my signature as proof of capital. I copied Craig on both messages. The bank officer replied within an hour. Understood. No joint application will proceed without your written consent. Dean answered after lunch. Thank you for clarifying. Craig said nothing. The deadline passed the next day. At 5:30, I drove by the restaurant space on my way home. The windows were dark. A leasing notice remained taped inside the front door. I didn't feel victorious. I felt responsible for stopping something Craig had built his hopes around. When I entered the house, 2 suitcases stood near the stairs. Craig was in the living room. "Are you leaving?" I asked. "For a while." "Where are you going?" "A hotel. Can we talk first?" "We've been talking." "About the restaurant." That was the last thing I needed to understand. I put my keys on the table. "Understand what?" "That there is no room for me here unless I accept your decisions. I didn't agree to a loan. You made sure nobody else could agree either. It required my house and my income. Our house. Yes, our house. That means one of us can say no." He picked up the smaller suitcase. I called an attorney. The room became very quiet. About what? Craig looked at me as if the answer should have been obvious. Ending the marriage. I gripped the edge of the entry table. "Is that what you want?" "I want an accurate division of what we built." I thought he meant the house, the savings, and the years we had spent together. I still believed we could discuss those things with respect. Then he looked toward the locked document case in the office. "That includes your military retirement," he said. He carried the suitcases through the front door. 4 days later, a process server handed me the divorce petition at work. He waited in the hallway while I signed his electronic pad. A few people passed behind us. Nobody stopped, but they saw the envelope. "Thank you," he said. I almost laughed at the politeness of it. I carried the petition into my office and shut the door. My name appeared first. Craig's appeared beneath it. The language was plain enough. He wanted the marriage dissolved. He wanted an equitable division of the house, savings, household property, and retirement benefits. There was no amount beside the pension. That gave me room to hope he only wanted the portion the law treated as marital. I read the petition twice. Then I called a family law attorney whose number had been given to me through a referral service. She couldn't meet that day, but she told me 3 things. Don't move money. Don't destroy records. Don't discuss terms with Craig through Kayla. The first 2 were easy. The third became difficult before dinner. Kayla called while I was still at work. Why did I hear this from Craig? I closed the office door again. Hear what? That you're getting divorced. He filed. I was served this afternoon. He said he told you Friday. He told me he'd called an attorney. So, you knew. I knew he was leaving. I didn't know papers had been filed. Kayla breathed into the phone. Did you really contact the bank behind his back? I copied him on the email, you know what I mean. I told the bank I didn't consent to the loan. He says you destroyed the financing. I refused to provide it. Same result. Not the same action. She was silent. I heard a car horn near her. Are you outside? I asked. I'm leaving work. Are you driving? I'm walking to my car. Call me when you get home. I'm fine. I don't want to do this while you're crossing a parking lot. I don't want to do this at all. Neither did I, she said. Craig thinks you're going to use the army to bury him in paperwork. I have no idea what that means. He says you document everything I do. Exactly. That isn't an attack on him. It feels like one when you're the person being documented. I looked at the petition on my desk. Did he ask you to call me? No. Did he tell you what he wants? He wants what's fair. So do I. He doesn't believe that. Then he can put his request in writing. That sounds like you. How should I sound? Like my mother. The words caught me. I leaned back in my chair. I am your mother. Then talk to me like a person. Not like I'm part of a case. I'm trying not to put you in the middle. You keep saying that after you ask what he told me. She was right. I had asked because I wanted to know what Craig was saying. That made her a source, even if I didn't call her one. All right, I said. I won't ask you for information about him. That's not what I meant. It's what I need to do. Mom, I love you. Call me when you get home. I ended the call before I asked another question. That evening, I put the petition in the locked case. I checked the joint accounts and printed the current balances. Nothing had moved. Then I walked through the house with my phone. I photographed each room. The living room furniture, the television, the dining table, the kitchen appliances, Craig's desk, my locked case, the tools in the garage. It felt ridiculous at first. Then I opened the hall closet and saw an empty space where 2 suitcases had been. That made the photographs feel less ridiculous. I wasn't accusing Craig of taking anything that wasn't his. I needed a record of what remained. The physical work settled me. 1 room at a time, 1 drawer at a time. I didn't inventory forks or count towels. I recorded the things that would matter if we later disagreed. In the office, I found a cardboard file box under Craig's side of the desk. It contained old tax returns, mortgage statements, and insurance records. Those belonged to both of us. I scanned the most recent statements and returned everything exactly as I found it. At 10, Craig emailed, "I'll come Saturday for clothes and work files. Kayla is helping." I read the last sentence twice. Then I replied, "You may collect your personal clothing and work files. Please don't remove shared financial or household records. I'll be present." He answered almost immediately, "I don't need supervision in my own house." I wrote, "I'll be present." On Saturday morning, Craig arrived at 9. Kayla's car pulled in behind him. I opened the front door before either of them knocked. Craig carried flattened boxes. Kayla had packing tape and 2 travel mugs. She held one toward me. I brought coffee. "Thank you." I took it. Craig walked past us. "I'm getting my office files first." "All right." He entered the office and stopped. The desktop was clear except for the printer. "Where's the catering folder?" "In my work bag. I need it." "For what?" "The reception." "Are you still handling it?" He looked at Kayla. I assumed I was no longer welcome. I stayed near the doorway. "I told you the opposite. Before you contacted a divorce lawyer. You filed. That doesn't mean you want me at the ceremony. I haven't removed you." Kayla set her coffee on the windowsill. "Can we just decide this?" Craig opened a desk drawer. "I'm not attending." The sentence was aimed at me, but he watched Kayla receive it. I kept my voice level. "Are you withdrawing from the reception work too? You clearly don't trust me. I need a direct answer." "Yes, Holly, I'm withdrawing. The ceremony is in 6 days." "I'm aware." Kayla looked at him. "You can't leave her with 6 days. She'll handle it. That's not the point." For the first time since she arrived, Kayla sounded irritated with him. Craig pulled client folders from the drawer. "She doesn't need me." I stepped into the office. "This isn't about whether I need you. You agreed to do a job. I agreed as your husband. You still made commitments to the Civic Center, and I'm telling you now that I won't be there." I nodded once. "Give me every current contact, menu decision, delivery time, and invoice. They're in the folder. Anything that isn't?" "No." "Any verbal change?" He kept sorting files. "No." I looked at Kayla. She looked down. I left the room and retrieved the folder. For the next hour, Craig packed clothing and client papers. I stayed downstairs. Kayla carried boxes to his car. Neither of us mentioned the pension. Before Craig left, he stood beside the front door. "I'll need access to the rest of my things. Email me a time. I still have a key." "I know." His expression changed. "You're changing the locks? Not while your property is here. You considered it. I'm considering everything." He opened the door. "Of course you are." Kayla remained after he drove away. She stood in the kitchen, rolling a piece of packing tape around 2 fingers. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm functioning." That wasn't my question. "No, I'm not okay." She pulled the tape from her hand. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You're not supposed to do anything. He's been in my life for 12 years. I know. And you're my mom. I know that too. He says this is about more than the restaurant. It is now." "What does that mean?" "It means there's a divorce petition in my office." She rubbed the sticky side of the tape with her thumb. "Couldn't you have let him try?" "With the restaurant?" "Yes." "Not with the house. He thinks you never saw him as an equal." "That isn't true." "Did you?" I set the catering folder on the counter. "Yes." The answer came too quickly. Kayla noticed. I tried again. I thought I did. She looked toward the office. "Craig says he gave up a lot for your career." "He did. Then why do you sound angry when he says it?" "Because giving something doesn't mean you own the person who received it." Her face closed. That's not what he said. No, it isn't. I had gone too far. Not because the thought was false, but because Kayla didn't yet know what Craig intended to claim. I touched the folder. I have to fix the reception. Do you want help? Yes. She seemed surprised. So was I. We spent the afternoon at the Civic Center. The coordinator brought us an updated event sheet. Craig's notes were complete. Every vendor time was listed. The room layout had been approved. The food order was confirmed. He had done good work. He had also removed himself 6 days before the event. Kayla checked place cards against the seating list while I reviewed the delivery schedule. Several names had changed. One guest required an accessible seat near the aisle. 2 people were arriving together but had been placed at different tables for the reception. We corrected those details. Then we walked the room. Kayla moved 3 reserved signs. I tested the microphone. The coordinator showed me the light controls and the service entrance. At the dessert table, Kayla picked up the printed menu. These are the samples from your kitchen? Yes. They were good. I didn't try them. You should. I wasn't hungry. She put the menu back. Craig shouldn't have used the tasting for the restaurant. It was the first direct criticism she had made. No, I said. He shouldn't have. But you could have told him before calling Dean. I did. He says you interrogated him. I asked for the proposal. Kayla sighed. You two hear completely different conversations. That was true. By late afternoon, the reception had a new contact. Me. The coordinator sent written confirmation while we stood beside her desk. The food was secure. The room was secure. No deposit had been lost. Nothing depended on Craig returning. That was the useful result. It also meant he would receive an automatic notice showing his access had been removed. My phone rang before Kayla and I reached the parking garage. Craig, I answered. You changed the event contact, he said. You withdrew. You couldn't wait until Monday? The ceremony is Friday. I told you everything was handled. You told me you were done. Kayla stood beside me, close enough to hear his voice. Craig said, You didn't waste any time replacing me. I took responsibility for the reception. Same thing. No, you always need proof that people are unnecessary. I looked at Kayla. Her eyes dropped to the concrete floor. You made a commitment, I said. Then you withdrew with 6 days left. I handled the result. Did you enjoy it? What? Showing Kayla how quickly you could take over. Kayla lifted her head. I offered to help, she said loudly. Craig went silent. She stepped closer to the phone. She didn't ask me to choose. I didn't say she did. You made it sound like she brought me there to replace you. I'm talking to Holly, and I'm standing here. I watched my daughter's face. She wasn't defending me. Not completely. She was correcting one fact. For that moment, it was enough. Craig said, We'll discuss the ceremony through the attorneys. The ceremony isn't part of the divorce, I said. Everything is now. He disconnected. Kayla handed me the event folder. I'm still coming Friday. I'm glad, but I'm not sitting between you. I won't ask you to. On Monday, my attorney forwarded the first property request from Craig's side. He wanted bank records, mortgage records, tax returns, household valuations, and my military retirement documents. At the bottom was a proposed temporary arrangement. Craig would remain out of the house. We would divide current household expenses. Neither of us would sell or borrow against marital property. I agreed to those terms. Then I reached the final page. Craig was requesting 1/2 of my monthly retired pay when payments began, not 1/2 of the portion earned during our marriage, 1/2 of all of it. I called my attorney and asked whether I was reading it correctly. You are, she said. He wants 1/2 of the entire monthly amount. That's his current position. Can he ask for that? He can ask. That wasn't my question. She paused. No one can promise you what a judge will do. We'll document the service period, the marriage period, and the benefit. Then we'll argue for the marital portion to be divided accurately. I already gave him the dates. His attorney may be starting high. This isn't a used car. No, it's a divorce. She explained the next steps: financial disclosure, a response to the petition, mediation before a final hearing, unless we settled first. Then she mentioned the retainer. $5,000. I had expected legal fees. I hadn't expected to feel the number in my chest. That money came from my separate checking account. I'd been saving it for repairs after retirement. The back steps needed work. 2 windows in the upstairs bedroom leaked cold air every winter. I transferred the money that afternoon. The balance on the screen looked wrong afterward. Craig had wanted to borrow against the house. Now I was spending money to keep the divorce from dividing more than it should. I sent him a message. We need to discuss the retirement request directly before this becomes more expensive. He replied an hour later. Public place. We met the next morning at a coffee shop near downtown. Craig was already seated when I arrived. He had chosen a table beside the front window. I bought my own coffee and sat across from him. He didn't remove his coat. You wanted to talk, he said. You requested half of my full retired pay. Yes. Why? He looked surprised. Because we're married. We were married for 12 of my 28 service years. I know how long we've been married. Then you know 16 years came before you. You weren't retired then. That isn't how the service calculation works. He leaned back. Here we go. What does that mean? You're already hiding behind military technicalities. I'm explaining the difference between service years. The pension is marital property. The portion earned during the marriage may be divided. You say that like I didn't contribute to the rest. You weren't there for the rest. I was there when it became payable. I wrapped both hands around my coffee cup. Craig, you're asking for half of $6,300 every month. Yes, that's $3,150. I can divide by 2. Then explain why you believe half of all 28 years belongs to you. His mouth tightened. I supported you for 12 years. You keep saying 12 like it was nothing. I'm saying 12 because it's accurate. I managed our home. I put my work second. I made it possible for you to finish. I had already served 16 years before we married, and maybe you would have quit without me. I stared at him. Do you believe that? I believe you don't know what it costs to be married to your career. I know it cost you. Then stop minimizing it. I'm not giving you 16 years you weren't part of. A woman at the next table glanced over. Craig lowered his voice. There. That sentence. You make it sound like I'm taking something from you. You are requesting something. I'm requesting my share of years before we met, of a pension that came into payment during our marriage. It doesn't start until I retire. Exactly. He sat forward. You get to walk away with the house, the respect, and a monthly check. I get to start over at 57. I haven't asked for the whole house. You stopped the one business that could have given me steady income. I refused the loan. You made the decision. We both had to say yes, and now you get to use my lack of income against me. I haven't done that. You will. The coffee shop door opened. Cold air moved across the floor. Craig pulled his coat tighter. I said, I want a respectful separation. He looked out the window. So do I, then ask for the marital share. I am. No, you're asking for half of everything. I'm asking for half of the pension. Those are not the same sentence. To you. To anyone who reads the service record. He took his coffee and stood. I'm not negotiating against myself. Then mediation will fail. Maybe. He pushed in his chair. Kayla understands what I contributed. I felt something drop inside me. Did you discuss the amount with her? I told her you're trying to cut me out. Did you tell her you're asking for half of all 28 years? I don't need your permission to talk to her. She isn't part of this. She's family. She's my daughter and my stepdaughter. He held my gaze. You don't own that relationship either. He left before I answered. My retirement ceremony was the next day. I arrived at the Civic Center early and checked the room myself. The chairs were straight. The microphone worked. The food delivery was on schedule. The event coordinator handed me a clipboard. Your daughter is already here. Kayla stood near the photograph table in the navy dress she'd shown me. She was looking at a picture from my first deployment. I walked over. You're early. So are you. I had things to check. Of course you did. Her tone wasn't warm, but she had come. I looked at the photograph. My hair was shorter then. You look tired. I was. She pointed to the unit patch on my sleeve. Was this before Craig? Yes. How long before? Several years. She nodded without looking at me. I talked to him. I know. He says you're trying to keep your pension away from him. I'm trying to divide the marital part accurately. He was your husband while you earned it. Part of it. He supported you. Yes. Then why are you fighting him? Because he asked for half of years he wasn't married to me. Kayla frowned. He says the pension became marital when you retired. He's wrong about how the service period is counted. You always have a rule. This one isn't mine. She crossed her arms. Maybe there's the legal answer and the fair answer. Fair to whom? Both of you. Would it be fair for me to claim half the value of work he did before we married? He doesn't have a pension. That doesn't change the question. Her eyes moved toward the entrance. Guests were beginning to arrive. I'm not doing this here, she said. Neither am I. We stood beside each other as people entered. Craig's absence was noticeable. Several guests asked where he was. I gave the same answer each time. We're separated. He won't be attending. Nobody asked for details. The ceremony started on time. I stood where I was told to stand. The flag was carried forward. People said kind things about my service. Some of them were too kind. A colonel I had worked for years earlier spoke briefly. He reminded me of an exercise where the transportation schedule had collapsed during the first hour. Lieutenant Colonel Roberts walked into the operations tent, he said, looked at the board for about 30 seconds, and asked why we were moving equipment before we had drivers. People laughed. I remembered the moment. I also remembered that a young sergeant had found the actual error. When it was my turn to speak, I said so. The sergeant found the missing driver roster. I asked the loud question. He did the useful work. That drew another laugh. I could see Kayla in the second row. Her face had softened. Afterward, people formed a line at the reception. I shook hands, accepted hugs, and tried to remember names I hadn't heard in years. One retired officer greeted me with my rank and asked whether I still kept emergency coffee in my desk. 2 kinds, I said. Still terrible? Consistently. Kayla heard him. For a while, she stayed close. She helped an older guest find a chair. She carried 2 plates to a table. When the dessert trays arrived, she checked them against Craig's notes. Everything worked. Protocol held. The food came out at the right time. Nobody knew how close the reception had come to losing its organizer. Near the end, Kayla stood with me beside the photograph table. I didn't know they remembered all that, she said. People remember strange things. They respect you. I respect them. That's not what I said. I know. She touched the corner of a photograph. Craig says this is what he gave up his own career for. I looked across the room. He made sacrifices. You keep saying that because it's true, but then you take it back. No, I don't. You add a condition. I add the years. Her hand dropped from the photograph. There's always a correction with you. Accuracy isn't punishment. It feels like punishment when someone's already losing everything. Craig isn't losing everything. He lost the restaurant. He lost the house. He still owns part of the house. He can't live there. He chose the hotel because you made him feel unwanted. I took a slow breath. This is exactly why you shouldn't carry messages between us. I'm telling you what I think. Are you? Her face changed. I regretted the question immediately. Kayla picked up her purse. I came today because I wanted to be here for you. I'm glad you came. And somehow I still feel like I failed a test. There was no test. There's always a test with you, Mom. You just don't tell people they're taking it. She walked away before I could answer. I finished the reception. I thanked the Civic Center staff. I packed the photographs into 2 boxes. I carried my uniform cover, the event folder, and the remaining programs to my car. At home, I hung my uniform in the bedroom closet. The house was silent. There was a message from Craig. Kayla told me how you talked to her. Leave her out of this. I read it twice. Then I called Kayla. She didn't answer. I left one message. I'm sorry I questioned whether those were your own thoughts. You didn't deserve that. I won't discuss Craig's claim with you again. She didn't call back that night. She didn't call the next day either. By Monday, she had stopped answering my messages entirely. That was the real cost. Not the legal retainer, not the empty chair at the ceremony. Craig had found the one thing I still believed we could protect, and he had placed his version of the divorce inside it. I had wanted a respectful separation. I had thought if I stayed calm, acknowledged his sacrifices, and offered enough, we could leave the marriage without turning every year into a weapon. That goal was no longer sufficient. Respect required two people. Accuracy required records. On Tuesday morning, I called Carrie. The question changed, I said. I'm listening. Craig filed for divorce. He's asking for half of my entire retired pay. Carrie was quiet for a moment. Do you have counsel? Yes. Has your attorney requested certified service information? Not yet. I'm requesting it. For disclosure or mediation? Both. All right. I heard her keyboard. I'll prepare the retired pay packet. It will document your service and the portion overlapping the marriage. I can authenticate the records. I can't tell the court how to divide them. I understand. When do you need it? As soon as it can be certified. I'll give you a collection date. I ended the call and opened my calendar. I was no longer trying to make Craig agree that I had been fair. I was going to make sure every year was counted where it belonged. Carrie emailed me 2 days later. Your packet is ready for collection. I drove to the records office during lunch. She met me at the front counter and took me into the same small office. A sealed envelope lay on her desk. Before she handed it over, she checked my identification and had me sign the release log. This is the certified copy, she said. The seal is on the final page. Don't separate anything. I won't. I also made a working copy. She slid a plain folder toward me. I opened it. The first pages showed my entry into service, retirement date, and total creditable service. The deployment records appeared farther back. Near the end was the marital service computation. The line was short. Marital service credit 12 of 28 years. I read it once. Then I checked the dates above it. They were correct. Carrie watched me without speaking. This is what you would authenticate? I asked. Yes. Not a percentage of the final award. No. I authenticate the service record and the computation information. The judge decides what portion is divided and how. If Craig says the entire pension is marital, he can say that. And you would say? I would say what the record says. She tapped the line with one finger. 12 service years overlap the marriage. 28 service years count toward retirement. I closed the folder. It was almost frustrating in its simplicity. No accusation, no argument about who had sacrificed more, no description of our marriage. Just years. I want to make him an offer before mediation, I said. Then give this to your attorney. Craig will get a copy. He should. He may challenge it. He's allowed. What happens if he says the packet is wrong? Carrie took her hand off the folder. Then someone checks the source records. That's why they're included. She wasn't promising me an outcome. I appreciated that. I put the certified packet into my bag and zipped it closed. Before I left, Carrie said, Holly, keep the original in its current condition. I will, and don't write on the working copy. I looked at her. You know me too well. You brought tabs to a retirement briefing. I returned to my office and scanned the working copy. The certified packet went into the locked case when I got home. Then I stopped trying to persuade Craig. I didn't send him another explanation. I didn't ask him to remember the years before our marriage. I didn't ask Kayla to call me. I made a list: house, mortgage, savings, vehicles, household property, retired pay, current expenses. I gathered the statements already requested in the divorce. I used the same dates for every account. I marked which property had been acquired during the marriage and which items each of us used personally. The work took 3 evenings. Craig's dining room set from before our marriage remained his. My service keepsakes remained mine. The furniture we bought together went on the marital list. So did the equity in the house and the joint savings. I didn't assign emotional value. A couch was a couch. The blue serving bowl Craig liked was a serving bowl. On the fourth evening, I sent the spreadsheet and supporting statements to my attorney. I also sent the certified computation. My instructions were simple. Offer Craig half of the marital portion of the retired pay. Divide the remaining marital property conventionally. No penalty for the restaurant application. No demand that he repay legal fees. No attempt to reduce his share because he had left the house. My attorney called the next morning. This is more complete than most first disclosures. I had the records. You're prepared to give him half the house equity? After the mortgage and normal sale costs, yes. Do you want to keep the house? If I can afford to buy out his share, that may require refinancing. I know. There was the next cost. Protecting the house from the restaurant loan didn't mean I could automatically keep it. Craig still owned his marital share. If I wanted to remain at 814 11th Street Southwest, I would have to pay him for it. I looked around the kitchen while she spoke. The cabinet above the refrigerator still had a loose hinge. Craig had promised to fix it. I had promised to stop reminding him. Run the numbers both ways, I said. Buyout and sale. We will. And send the pension offer before mediation. With the computation attached? Yes. You understand that gives them time to prepare an argument against it. They should have the same record I have. All right. That afternoon, Craig came to collect the rest of his clothes. He emailed first. I gave him a 2-hour window. When he arrived, I stayed downstairs and completed the property spreadsheet while he packed upstairs. We spoke only when he carried down a lamp from the bedroom. I bought this, he said, during the marriage. So it's on the marital property list. It's a lamp, Holly. You can take it. I'll mark that you have it. He stared at me. You're documenting lamps now. I'm documenting what leaves the house. He set it beside his boxes. Do I need permission to take my shoes? No. My shirts? No. Toothbrush? Craig, I'm trying to find the line. Personal clothing and personal items are yours. Shared property goes on the list. I don't care about the lamp. Then leave it. He picked it up again. I like the lamp. Then take it. He carried it outside. That exchange would have been funny in another marriage. When he returned, he noticed the spreadsheet on my laptop. Is that the property list? Yes. Can I see it? Your attorney will receive it. I'm standing here. I turned the screen toward him. He scrolled through the list. You put the house at the current estimate. It's the most recent market estimate we have. You said I lost the house. I never said that. Kayla said you told her I still owned part of it. You do. He looked at me. You're offering a buyout? If I can qualify, what about the pension? You'll receive the offer before mediation. His hand left the mouse. What offer? The marital portion. His face hardened. You went back to the benefits office. Yes, you requested something, a certified retired pay packet. Without telling me, it's my service record. It affects me. That's why you'll receive it. He stepped away from the desk. You've been planning this since you requested half of the whole pension. I requested a fair share. The record will be included. The record according to the Army. The Army maintains my service dates. That doesn't decide what I contributed. No. He waited for more. I returned the screen to the spreadsheet. He said, You're not even going to argue with me. No. That's convenient. We have mediation scheduled, where you'll sit there with your folder and act like the answer was decided before I entered the room. The answer isn't decided. You think it is. I know what I'm offering. He went upstairs and finished packing. Before he left, he took the lamp. The next day, my attorney sent the settlement proposal. Craig received the same property spreadsheet, the same account balances, and a copy of the certified packet. The pension section explained the offer in 2 steps. 12 of the 28 service years overlapped the marriage. Craig would receive half of that marital portion. The resulting share was 21.43% of the disposable retired pay. The proposal did not reduce his share of the house or joint savings. It did not ask him to surrender furniture. It treated his 12 marital years as marital years. It did not treat the 16 earlier years as his. His attorney acknowledged receipt before noon. That was the first visible result of my new approach. There was no missing record to argue about, no hidden estimate, no surprise reserved for mediation. Craig had the computation in front of him with enough time to read every page. At 4, he called. I let it ring twice before answering. I saw your offer, he said. Good. 21.43%. That's half of the marital portion. According to you, according to the service fraction. You took 28 years of pay and turned our marriage into 12 divided by 28. I didn't create the dates. You chose the formula. It was covered at the retirement briefing. I wasn't at that briefing. The certified packet explains the overlap. It explains what the Army wants to explain. The benefits office doesn't decide the division. Then why did you get Carrie involved? I stopped. I hadn't told him Carrie had prepared the packet. Her certification appeared on it. You read the record's custodian page, I said. I read all of it. Good. Is she going to testify for you? I haven't asked her. Yet. Craig, she authenticates records. She doesn't take sides. She works for the same system you do. I'm retiring. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He lowered his voice. I supported you for 12 years, and you're offering me barely more than 1/5. I'm offering half of the portion earned during the marriage. You keep saying that as if repeating it makes it fair. It makes my position clear. What am I supposed to do with that amount? The question revealed more than he intended. You built the restaurant plan around half of my full retirement, I said. He didn't answer. Didn't you? I built it around the income I believed I'd have. From me. From the marital property. The restaurant deadline passed before you filed. That doesn't mean the opportunity is gone forever. I closed my laptop. You expected $3,150 a month. I expected a fair division. You expected enough monthly income to support another financing plan. You don't get to decide what I do with my share. No, I don't. That answer stopped him. I continued. If a court awards you money, it's yours. I'm not asking for control over it, then increase the offer. No. Not even to settle? No. He breathed out slowly. So this is your final position. This is my accurate position. All right. The way he said it made me sit straighter. Craig, what? Keep Kayla out of the pension discussion. You don't speak for her. I'm not asking you to stop speaking to her. I'm asking you not to use her to negotiate with me. I have never done that. You told me she understood your contribution. She does. She doesn't know what the service computation means. She knows what 12 years in this family meant. This isn't her burden. Then don't blame me when she sees exactly how you valued those years. He ended the call. A minute later, I received a notification. Craig had forwarded the settlement proposal. The recipient was Kayla. I called her before Craig had time to add his own explanation. She didn't answer. I sent one message. Craig forwarded you a settlement proposal. It contains private financial records. Please don't share it. You don't need to respond. She replied 10 minutes later. I already saw the percentage. I typed several answers and deleted them. Finally, I wrote, the full packet explains it. Her response came immediately. He was your husband for 12 years. I set the phone down. Craig's forwarding message appeared in the document activity log. He had written one sentence above the attachment. This is what your mother thinks our marriage was worth. I took a screenshot and saved it with the other records. Then I did nothing. That was harder than calling. At 7 that evening, Kayla rang me. I answered. Why are you only offering him 21%? She asked. Did you read the packet? I saw the offer. That wasn't my question. There are almost 40 pages. Then you didn't read it. I read the important part. The service computation is the important part. She made a frustrated sound. Craig says the pension is marital property. He's asking the court to treat the entire pension that way. You retired while you were married. That doesn't mean the years before the marriage disappear. So now he gets punished because he met you later? No, it sounds like it. I walked into the kitchen and turned on the light. Kayla, I'm not going to argue the divorce through you. You forwarded me your dress for the ceremony. Was that arguing through you? That has nothing to do with this. You ask me to be part of the family when it suits you. Then when I disagree, suddenly I'm in the middle. You are in the middle because Craig sent you a settlement offer. He wanted me to see what you were doing." "Exactly." She went quiet. I waited. She said, "Why can't you just split the pension?" "I'm offering to split the marital portion." That's another technical answer. It's the accurate answer. Do you hear yourself? Yes. You'd rather be accurate than fair. I don't accept that those are opposites. Of course you don't. I leaned against the counter. "What do you want me to do? Give him half of the entire pension?" "Yes." That answer came from Craig. I knew it did. Kayla didn't understand the fraction yet. She hadn't read the packet. She only knew he felt cheated, and I had offered a percentage that sounded small. "Do you know how many service years came before Craig?" I asked. "Why does that matter?" "It matters to the calculation." "I'm not asking about a calculation, but you're asking me to give away part of it." She inhaled sharply. "Give away?" I closed my eyes. That was the wrong phrase. No, I think it was the honest one. I meant a share beyond the marital service. You meant giving anything to Craig feels like losing your money. That isn't true. He supported you. Yes. He took care of things while you were deployed. My deployments were completed before we married. The silence after that was different. I hadn't raised my voice. I had only corrected the timeline. Kayla heard it as another attempt to reduce him. "So he did nothing," she said. "I didn't say that. You keep finding ways to make his part smaller. I am not discussing this with you anymore because you can't control what I think. Because you're my daughter and he's my stepfather. I know. Then stop talking like he's a stranger trying to steal from you." I gripped the phone tighter. I haven't called him a thief. "You don't have to." She ended the call. The next morning, I found an envelope in the mailbox. Inside was Kayla's key to the house. There was no note. I stood beside the curb with the envelope in my hand. The mail carrier was 3 houses away. A lawnmower ran somewhere behind me. I took the key inside and placed it on the kitchen counter. Then I sat at the table. For the first time since Craig filed, I considered increasing the offer for a reason that had nothing to do with the law. I could offer him more than the marital portion. Not half, perhaps, but enough to let him claim I had recognized his sacrifice. He could tell Kayla I'd finally been reasonable. Maybe she would take the key back. That thought stayed with me all day. It followed me into mediation the next week. The mediation room had a round table, a coffee machine, and no windows. Craig sat across from me with his attorney. Mine sat beside me. The mediator explained that the conversation was confidential and that nobody would leave with an order unless we reached an agreement. We started with the house. Craig accepted the current estimate for discussion. We agreed on the mortgage balance. We disagreed about whether I could complete a buyout by the proposed deadline, but that was a practical question. We moved to savings. The balances matched. Household property took less than 20 minutes. Craig wanted the lamp. I said he could keep it. Then we reached retired pay. Craig's attorney said, "Our position is an equal division of the monthly benefit." My attorney placed the certified computation on the table. Our offer divides the marital portion equally. Craig didn't look at the packet. The mediator asked, "Mr. Davidson, have you reviewed the service computation?" "Yes. Do you dispute the service dates?" "I dispute what she's doing with them." "What do you believe is fair?" "Half. Half of the marital portion, half of the pension." The mediator looked at me. I said, "I'm offering half of the portion earned during the marriage." Craig leaned forward. "That pension exists because she stayed long enough to retire. She stayed because I supported her. I had 16 service years when we married, and 12 more because I was there." The mediator raised one hand. "Let's keep this focused on possible resolution." Craig sat back. I kept both hands on my folder. The mediator asked whether either side would consider a different percentage to avoid a hearing. Craig said, 50%. My attorney asked, "Of the entire disposable retired pay?" "Yes." "That is not a compromise," she said. "It is if Holly thinks I deserve nothing." "I offered you half of the marital portion," I said. Barely 1/5 of the payment. The fraction comes from the service years. You selected the fraction. The dates selected it. The mediator asked us to separate. Craig and his attorney moved to another room. The mediator stayed with us. "Is there any flexibility?" she asked. My attorney looked at me. I thought about the key on the kitchen counter. "What would flexibility mean?" I asked. "A larger pension percentage in exchange for resolving the house and other property. The house is already being divided." "I understand." "Would Craig give up house equity?" "That hasn't been offered." "Would he give up savings?" "No." "Then I would be paying extra retired pay to end the argument." The mediator chose her words carefully. "You would be paying for certainty." I looked at the certified packet. Certainty had a price. So did accuracy. "What percentage is he willing to accept?" I asked. "I can ask." She left the room. My attorney turned toward me. "You don't have to move, I know. But if you want to avoid trial, this is where movement happens. I know that too." The mediator returned 10 minutes later. "Mr. Davidson remains at 50%. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because I had spent 10 minutes considering a compromise he had no interest in making. We returned to the round table. The mediator summarized the agreements we had reached on basic disclosures and household property. Then she stated that the pension issue remained unresolved. Craig looked at me. "You could end this today," he said. "So could you. I'm not the one hiding behind a government formula. The formula is in the disclosed record. You think that record erases what I did? No, then prove it. How? Offer me half." I shook my head. He glanced at my attorney, then back at me. "Kayla understands." The mediator said, "Your daughter isn't part of this mediation." Craig ignored her. "She saw the offer. She knows what it says." I felt my attorney's hand touch the edge of my folder. Not me, just the folder. A reminder not to react too quickly. I said, "You forwarded private financial records to her." I showed her the truth. "You showed her a percentage without explaining the service fraction. She can read. She didn't read the packet. That's between you and her. No, you made it part of this room." Craig folded his arms. "She isn't speaking to you because of your choices." The words hit exactly where he aimed them. He continued, "If you want to keep choosing paperwork over family, that's on you." The mediator stopped him. "That is not productive." He looked down, but the sentence had already done its work. I pictured Kayla's key on the counter. For a few seconds, I wanted to pick up my pen and write a larger number. I wanted to purchase one quiet phone call with my daughter. I wanted Craig to tell her I had been fair. Then I understood the choice he was offering. If I changed the pension division because he had carried the dispute to Kayla, I would teach him that estrangement worked. I would also make Kayla's relationship with me part of the price of settlement. I couldn't do that to either of us. "My offer remains the same," I said. Craig nodded slowly. "Then we're done." The mediator ended the session. In the hallway, Craig caught up with me near the elevators. "You really chose the hearing. I chose an accurate division. You'll have to say that in public." "Yes." "Carrie too?" "If the record needs authentication." His expression told me I had named the target. He knew the packet mattered. He knew Carrie was the person who could confirm it. "You're bringing the Army into our divorce," he said. "You challenged an Army service record." The elevator opened. I stepped inside with my attorney. That afternoon, she sent me a draft witness list. Carrie's name appeared beneath the records packet. Calling her meant more exposure. My service dates, retired pay, marriage dates, and monthly benefit would be discussed in open court. Craig would be able to challenge the computation in front of Kayla if she attended. He would also get the chance to make his full claim. My attorney asked whether I wanted to proceed. I looked at the key still lying on the kitchen counter. Then I signed the witness list. "Let him put the whole request before the judge," I said. My attorney filed it the next morning. "Carrie called me after receiving the witness notice. I need to know exactly what you're asking me to do," she said. "Authenticate the packet. Nothing beyond the records? No opinion about what Craig deserves. Good." Her tone remained professional, but I could tell she was relieved. Carrie worked with service records. She wasn't a divorce advocate. Putting her in court created an obligation she hadn't asked for. "I'm sorry this is taking your time," I said. "It's part of the job. It's still your time. We'll keep it focused." She asked me to meet her with my attorney so we could verify the exhibit against the source file. The appointment was set for the following Tuesday. Before then, Craig's attorney sent an objection. He argued that the packet had been prepared after the divorce began and reflected a military administrative calculation, not a judicial decision about marital property. My attorney handed me the objection in her office. "They're not disputing that you served 28 years, she said. "What are they disputing?" "The use of the 12-year overlap, that's the whole issue." "Yes." "Can they keep the packet out?" "They can try. That's why Carrie matters." I read the objection. Craig's position was that my retirement benefit became payable during the marriage and had been supported by marital effort. He wanted the court to consider the full pension available for division. "They're still saying the payment date controls," I said. "They're saying the judge has discretion." "Does she?" "She decides the division. We present the record and the argument." There was no promise in her answer. I was getting used to that. My attorney opened another folder. "We also need to discuss Craig's restaurant documents." "What about them?" "He represented to prospective partners that financing was nearly complete. Then he filed for divorce shortly after you refused. We could use that to question whether his pension demand is connected to replacing the financing." "It is connected." "I agree. But it doesn't change the service years." "No." "Then why use it? It may help explain motive." I looked at the home equity application in the folder. The unsigned signature line was still visible in the copy I'd photographed. Craig had expected my house and retired pay to support the restaurant. After I refused, he expected half the full monthly benefit to replace that plan. The connection was clear. It was also tempting. I could let the hearing become a judgment of his character. I could describe the incomplete partnership agreement, the Civic Center tasting, and the deadline. I could make him answer why my name appeared on the funding sheet without any ownership interest. Some of that might embarrass him. None of it would authenticate the 12-year line. "Use the application only if he claims I agreed to finance the restaurant," I said. "He may deny the pension was part of his plan. Then let him deny it." My attorney studied me. "You don't want to challenge his credibility? Not with something that doesn't decide the fraction. It could give the judge context. It could also turn this into punishment. That isn't what I'm suggesting." "I know. But that's how I would use it if I'm honest." She closed the restaurant folder. "All right." "There's one more thing," I said. "Kayla isn't a witness. She received the settlement proposal. Because Craig sent it. She can confirm what he told her." "No." "Holly, if he claims you involved her first, she may have relevant information. She isn't testifying about conversations between her mother and stepfather." My attorney leaned back. "That could limit our response if he brings her into it." "I accept that." "You understand he may call her. Has she been listed?" "No." "Then I'm not putting her name on paper to gain an advantage." That was the easier cruel choice. Craig had used Kayla's silence to pressure me. I could answer by putting her in a courtroom chair and asking her to choose whose words were true. I wouldn't do it. The consequence was simple. Craig's version might go unanswered in places where Kayla could have corrected it. I signed the revised exhibit list without the restaurant proposal as a primary exhibit and without Kayla as a witness. On Tuesday, Carrie met us in the records office. She brought the source documents in a plain government folder. No dramatic envelope, no surprise. She checked each item against the certified packet: entry date, retirement date, marriage date, creditable service. The records matched. Craig's attorney joined by video. His face appeared on Carrie's monitor. He asked, "Director Salazar, did you create this computation after Mrs. Roberts filed for divorce?" Carrie answered, "The packet was generated after the divorce filing. The service data existed before it. Who requested it? Holly Roberts. For use in this case. for disclosure and mediation, so it was prepared for litigation. It was certified for legal use. The underlying record was not created for litigation. He asked who entered the marriage date. Carrie explained that the date came from the marriage documentation in my retirement record. Did you independently investigate the marriage? He asked. No. Did you speak with Mr. Davidson? No. Did you determine his contribution to the household? No. Did you determine what portion of the pension he legally owns? No. Craig's attorney looked satisfied. Then my attorney asked, "What did you determine?" Carrie opened the packet. The service record reflects 28 years of creditable service. 12 of those years overlap the marriage. Is that calculation affected by who requested the packet? No. Is it affected by when the divorce was filed? No. Can you tell the judge how to divide the pension? No. What can you do? Authenticate the record. That was all. The single uncertainty I had carried into the meeting was gone. Craig could argue about fairness. He could argue about support. He could ask for discretion. He could not change when I entered the Army or when we married. After the call, Carrie closed the source folder. "I'll bring this if required," she said. "You received the subpoena?" "Yes. I'm sorry it came to that. It removes the question about whether I'm appearing voluntarily for one side." That mattered to her. I nodded. She looked at my attorney. "Do you need anything else from me today?" No. Carrie left with the source records locked in her case. My attorney and I walked to the parking lot. "If they won't stipulate to the packet, she'll need to testify," she said. "I know. They may still make a settlement offer before the hearing. They know mine." That offer came 2 days later. Craig would reduce his pension request from 1/2 to 40% of the full monthly benefit. In return, he wanted the house buyout completed within 90 days, and each side to pay their own legal fees. 40% was still far beyond half of the marital portion. I rejected it. Craig called that evening. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. "You received the offer," he said. "Yes." "It's less than half. It's still based on the whole pension. It's a compromise. It ignores the service fraction. Your fraction. The records fraction. You'd rather take your chances with a judge. Yes." He was quiet. "Do you know what a hearing does to people?" he asked. "I know what this one decides. Everything becomes public. I know. Your income, our marriage, the restaurant. I'm not using the restaurant proposal unless you claim I approved it." He didn't answer. That surprised him. "You're not bringing it up?" he asked. "It doesn't determine the service years." "You expect me to believe that?" "You don't have to." "What about Kayla? She isn't on my witness list." Another silence. "You could have called her," he said. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Because she's our family, not evidence." Craig exhaled. "You don't get to act noble now. I'm telling you the witness list. You're still taking this to court. You filed the petition. Because you shut me out. I refused a loan. You refused my future. I'm not arguing about that again." His voice changed. Not softer. More tired. "If the judge gives me half, will you accept it?" "Yes." The answer came without effort. That was the difference between us by then. I wasn't asking for a guaranteed result. I was asking for the established years to be considered. He said, "And if she doesn't? You'll receive what she orders. You won't offer anything more afterward?" "No." He ended the call. The hearing notice arrived the following Monday. Judge Joan Palmer had been assigned to the divorce. The final hearing would address the unresolved pension division, the house buyout schedule, and any remaining property terms. The household items were mostly settled. The account balances were settled. The pension was not. That afternoon, Kayla sent her first message in weeks. "Craig says the hearing is open." I replied, "It is. Can I attend?" I stared at the question. Part of me wanted to say no, not because she was forbidden, but because I didn't want to watch her sit behind Craig. I wrote, "You're an adult. The courtroom is open. I won't ask you to sit anywhere specific." She responded with one word, "Okay." I placed the phone beside her house key. If she attended, she would hear Craig's claim directly. She would also hear the record he had not convinced her to read. What happened after that might permanently change my relationship with her. I couldn't control which part she believed. The night before the hearing, I packed the working copy, my financial disclosures, and the house documents into one bag. The certified packet remained sealed for Carrie. I set out a dark suit and low shoes. At 7 the next morning, I drove downtown. Craig entered the courthouse ahead of me. Kayla walked beside him. She saw me near security but didn't wave. I passed through the metal detector, collected my bag, and followed them upstairs. At 8:40, the courtroom doors opened, and I carried the verified record inside. My attorney placed our exhibit binder on the table. Carrie sat in the first row behind us with the certified packet on her lap. Kayla sat farther back, near the aisle. Craig didn't turn toward either of them. Judge Palmer entered at 9. We stood. She took her seat, reviewed the case information, and asked whether any final settlement had been reached. Craig's attorney said, "No, Your Honor." Mine gave the same answer. Judge Palmer looked over her glasses. "I understand most household property has been resolved." "Yes," my attorney said. "The remaining issues are the division of retired pay and the schedule for the house buyout." "That's correct." She nodded. "Call your first witness." Craig's attorney called him. He walked to the witness stand, raised his right hand, and took the oath. Then he sat and adjusted the microphone. His attorney began with our marriage. "When did you marry Holly Roberts?" "In 2014. "Were you married when she retired?" "Yes." "Did you support her during the marriage?" "Yes." "How?" Craig looked toward the judge. "I managed our home when her work took priority. I adjusted my consulting schedule. I handled moves, repairs, travel changes, and family responsibilities. There were many times when her job came first. Did you object to her completing her military career?" "No." "I supported it." "Did you understand that retirement would provide monthly income to the household?" "Yes." "What amount?" "About $6,300 a month." "And what did you believe your interest in that income would be if the marriage ended?" Craig turned his head. He looked directly at me. "The pension is marital property, so half is mine." That was the point where I had started the story. Sitting there, I still felt the same pressure in my chest, but this time the sentence didn't hang by itself. The record was in the room. His attorney asked, "Why do you believe half is fair?" "Because Holly didn't complete the career alone. I was her husband. I supported the household. The pension became payable while we were married. Did you make financial plans based on that understanding?" "Yes." "What kind of plans?" "I was working toward a restaurant investment. I expected retirement income to provide stability while I built my own business. Did that investment proceed?" "No." "Why not?" "Holly refused the financing." My attorney stood. "Objection. The restaurant loan is not an issue before the court." Judge Palmer looked at Craig's attorney. "Where are you going with this?" "To his reliance on the expected retirement income. I'll allow that limited purpose. Move on." Craig's attorney nodded. "Did you believe Mrs. Roberts would control the entire pension after divorce?" "No. I believed half would be mine." "Did you review her settlement offer?" "Yes." "What did she offer?" 21.43%. "How did you react?" "I thought it dismissed what I contributed." His attorney sat down. Mine approached the witness stand. "Mr. Davidson, you married Holly in 2014? "Yes." "Had she already entered the Army?" "Yes." "How long had she served before the marriage?" "I don't remember the exact number." "You reviewed the certified packet?" "Yes." "Does it state that she completed 16 service years before you married?" "It says that. Do you dispute the entry date?" "No." "Do you dispute the marriage date?" "No." "Do you dispute the retirement date?" "No." "So what fact in the service record do you believe is incorrect?" Craig shifted in the chair. "I'm not saying the dates are incorrect. You're asking for half of the benefit earned across all 28 years. I'm asking for half of the pension that became payable during the marriage. That includes service performed before you met Holly. It's one pension." "That wasn't my question." Craig looked at Judge Palmer. "I understand that some years came before me." "How many?" 16. And how many overlapped the marriage? 12. Kayla moved on the bench behind us. My attorney continued, "Did Holly offer you half of the portion tied to those 12 years? She offered me 21%. 21.43%? Yes. Which is half of the marital service portion, according to her formula." No further questions. Judge Palmer looked at Craig. "I have one question. Are you claiming the service dates are inaccurate, or are you asking me not to use the service overlap when dividing the benefit?" Craig glanced at his attorney. "The second one. You want the court to treat the entire monthly benefit as marital because payment began during the marriage?" "Yes. Thank you." He stepped down from the witness stand. On the way back to his table, he passed within a few feet of me. He didn't look over. My attorney called Carrie. She carried the sealed packet to the witness stand. After taking the oath, she stated her position and described her responsibility for retired pay records. "Are you a lawyer?" my attorney asked. "No. Are you here to tell the court how to divide property?" "No." "Why are you here?" "To authenticate the retired pay packet and explain the service information it contains." She opened the envelope. My attorney asked whether the packet was a true and certified copy of the official record. Yes. "Were the underlying service dates created for this divorce?" "No." "Are they maintained in the normal course of retirement services work?" "Yes." My attorney offered the packet as an exhibit. Craig's attorney repeated the written objection. He argued that Carrie could authenticate service dates but shouldn't give an opinion about the legal marital share. Judge Palmer admitted the packet. She may authenticate and explain the record. The court will determine its legal effect. Carrie turned to the computation page. My attorney asked, "What does the record state about the service overlapping the marriage?" Carrie lowered her eyes and read the line aloud. "Marital service credit, 12 of 28 years. The words were quiet. No one gasped. Nothing dramatic happened in the room. Carrie simply read an official line from a certified record. My attorney asked, "What does 12 divided by 28 represent? The portion of creditable service that occurred during the marriage. What percentage is that?" "Approximately 42.86%. If that marital portion were divided equally, what percentage of the full disposable retired pay would go to Craig Davidson? 21.43%. Can you order that division? No. Can you determine whether Mr. Davidson's household contribution entitles him to more? No. Who decides? The court." My attorney sat down. Craig's attorney stood. "Director Salazar, you did not live in the Roberts-Davidson household. No. You don't know what my client sacrificed. No. You didn't calculate the value of his work in the home. No. You didn't consider whether Mrs. Roberts could have completed her career without him. No. You simply counted years. I authenticated the service and marriage overlap and labeled 12 years as marital service. That is what the record states. Is that label binding on the judge? No. Could Judge Palmer award my client more?" Carrie looked toward the bench. "That is not my decision." "Could she?" Judge Palmer interrupted. "I know the scope of my authority. Ask another question." Craig's attorney returned to the packet. "The monthly disposable retired pay is $6,300. That is the current stated amount. Benefits can change." "Yes." "Deductions can change?" "Yes." "So the monthly payment is not guaranteed to remain exactly the same forever." "Correct. But the 28 service years will not change." "Correct. And the 12 overlapping years will not change." "Correct." He had reached the same wall from the other side. No further questions. Carrie stepped down. As she passed our table, she gave me a small nod. Not encouragement. Confirmation that her work was finished. My attorney called me next. I took the oath and sat where Craig had sat. She asked whether I agreed that Craig had supported the household during our marriage. Yes. Did you account for the marriage in your pension offer? Yes. How? I offered him half of the portion earned during the 12 years we were married. Did you ask the court to deny him any share? No. Did you ask to reduce his house equity because he pursued the restaurant loan? No. Did he invest marital money in that restaurant? No. I refused the application before any loan proceeded. Why are you opposing his request for half of the full pension? Because 16 service years occurred before our marriage. My attorney stopped there. Craig's attorney asked only a few questions. You acknowledge your husband supported you. Yes. You acknowledge his consulting work was affected by your military schedule. Yes. You acknowledge he expected retirement to benefit the household? Yes. Yet you believe he should receive barely more than 1/5 of the pension. I believe he should receive half of the marital portion, even if that amount is not enough for the future he planned. I don't control what amount he needs. He returned to his table. The attorneys made short closing arguments. Craig's attorney focused on contribution and fairness. Mine focused on the service overlap and the fact that the offer divided the marital years equally. Judge Palmer took a recess. We waited 25 minutes. Craig wrote notes to his attorney. Carrie sat with her hands folded. Kayla remained near the aisle. I didn't look at the clock after the first 10 minutes. When Judge Palmer returned, we stood again. She began with the house. I received a fixed period to complete the buyout. If I couldn't, the house would be listed for sale. Neither of us received extra equity. Then she turned to retired pay. The court recognizes Mr. Davidson's contributions during the marriage, she said. Those contributions are reflected in his equal share of the marital portion. Craig stopped writing. Judge Palmer continued. Payment beginning during the marriage does not convert service performed before the marriage into marital service. The certified record establishes 12 marital service years out of 28 total service years. She applied the fraction allowed. The marital portion was 12 divided by 28. Craig would receive 1/2 of that portion. His share was 21.43% of my disposable retired pay. At the current amount, his monthly payment would be $1,350.09, not $3,150. The restaurant financing plan had depended on the larger amount. That income no longer existed for him. Judge Palmer didn't mention the restaurant. She didn't criticize Craig for asking. She simply limited the award to the share created during our marriage. I received no extra money. I kept the portion tied to the years outside it. Craig received exactly half of the marital portion. Behind me, Kayla whispered, 12 of 28. She had finally heard the line he hadn't wanted her to read. Craig sat very still. Then he closed his notebook. Judge Palmer directed the attorneys to prepare the written order using the percentage she had stated. The pension issue was decided. The clerk asked the attorneys to remain for scheduling details. Carrie gathered her records and waited near the courtroom door. When the judge left, she came to our table. Your attorney will send the signed order to the retirement office, she said. I will. The percentage needs to match the ruling. It will. She looked at Craig's side of the room. He was speaking quietly with his attorney. Carrie lowered her voice. Nothing I read today was new. I know. I'm saying that for you, not him. Thank you. She shook my hand and left. Her part was finished. Craig stood a minute later. He put his notebook into his briefcase and walked toward me. His attorney remained behind him. You got the number you wanted, he said. The court applied the service fraction. I heard her. You still receive half of the marital portion. I heard that too. His face looked tired rather than angry. I had imagined this moment several times. In some versions, Craig admitted he had asked for too much. In others, he accused me of destroying his future. He did neither. He adjusted the strap of his briefcase. I won't appeal the percentage, he said. That was the closest he came to accepting the calculation. Thank you for telling me. It would cost more than it's worth. The words were meant to remove any generosity from his decision. They worked. What about the house? I asked. If you complete the buyout on time, I'll sign what I need to sign. I intend to. If you don't, it goes on the market. I heard the order. For a second, we sounded exactly alike. Craig glanced toward the back row. Kayla was still sitting near the aisle. You can deal with her, he said. No, we each deal with her ourselves. His mouth tightened. I'm not carrying messages. Neither am I. He walked past her without stopping. Kayla watched him leave. Then she looked at me. My attorney touched my arm. I'll call you this afternoon. I nodded. She collected our exhibits and left us alone in the courtroom. Kayla stood slowly. I didn't know, she said. You had the packet. I didn't read all of it. I know. How? You kept saying the percentage. You never mentioned the service line. She picked up her purse. Craig said it was military wording designed to cut him out, and you repeated that. Yes. The answer was quiet. I closed my folder. She moved closer. Why didn't you tell me the deployments were before you married him? I did tell you, at the ceremony. You got angry because I corrected the timeline. Her eyes filled, but she looked toward the judge's empty bench until it passed. I thought you were trying to make him sound unimportant. I was trying to keep the years in order. I see that now. You heard one ruling. I heard Carrie. That isn't the same as understanding everything. Kayla looked down at her shoes. What do you want me to say? Nothing today. Mom, I don't want an apology in a courtroom hallway. I'm not trying to get out of anything. Then read the written order when it comes. I will. All of it. I said I will, and stop carrying information between Craig and me. I already stopped. You called me with his claim. You returned your house key after he sent you the proposal. You came here beside him. Her face tightened. He asked if I wanted a ride. This isn't about the ride. What is it about? You let him use your relationship with me as pressure. I didn't know he was doing that. You knew you weren't speaking to me. I was angry. You were allowed to be angry. You were not required to negotiate his pension for him. She pressed her lips together. I could see the apology waiting again. I didn't want it yet. I picked up my bag. When the order arrives, I'll send you a copy. Can I call you before then? If you're calling as my daughter? What does that mean? It means you don't tell me what Craig wants. You don't tell him what I'm thinking. You don't ask either of us to change terms for the other. She nodded. I can do that. We'll see. That hurt her. It also needed to be said. We walked out separately. The written order arrived 9 days later. I read every page at my kitchen table. The pension section matched the ruling. 12 marital service years, 28 total service years. Craig's share was 21.43%. At the current pay amount, that came to $1,350.09 each month. The figure would move only if the disposable retired pay changed under the terms described in the order. Craig did not receive half of the account. He received the ordered percentage of each applicable payment. My monthly amount after his share was not a windfall. It had to cover the mortgage, utilities, insurance, food, and the new loan required to buy out his house equity. Legal bills had already taken most of the repair money. The back steps would wait. I signed the acknowledgement page and sent it to my attorney. Craig signed his the next day. He did not include a note. The retirement pay office began processing the order. Carrie confirmed receipt through a standard message. She didn't congratulate me. There was nothing to celebrate in her work. The records matched. The order matched the records. That was the result. I sent Kayla the complete order. She replied an hour later. I'm reading it tonight. I didn't answer. The next morning, she called. I was getting ready for an appointment with the mortgage lender. Did I catch you at a bad time? She asked. I have 10 minutes. I read it. All of it? Yes. What does it say? She hesitated. I knew the question sounded like a test. This time, it was one. It says 16 of your service years happened before the marriage, she said. 12 happened during it. And Craig receives half of the part from those 12 years. Not because Carrie decided. No, the judge decided. Good. Kayla breathed out. I repeated his claim without reading the record. Yes. I thought because you retired during the marriage, the whole pension counted. That's what Craig told you. I should have checked. Yes. She accepted that without arguing. Then she said, he did support you. He did. but managing the household didn't make him an owner of service you completed before you married him. I sat down on the edge of the bed. That was the fact I had needed her to understand. Not that Craig had done nothing, not that our marriage had meant nothing, only that contribution had a boundary. "Correct," I said. "I'm sorry. I believe you're sorry. Can we fix this? Not in one phone call." "I know. Do you?" "I think so." I checked the time. "I have to go. Can I call you this weekend?" "Yes." She started to say something else, then stopped. "Good luck at your appointment." "Thank you." The lender meeting lasted almost 2 hours. The house buyout was possible, but the payment would be higher than I wanted. I had to use part of my remaining savings at closing. The lender needed the final divorce order, proof of retired pay, insurance information, and an updated valuation. I supplied all of it. The same record Craig had challenged now helped show what income remained available to me. It did not give me his share. It showed mine. 3 weeks later, the refinance was approved. At closing, I signed my name more times than I could count. Craig arrived separately to sign the deed documents transferring his interest after receiving his equity payment. We were placed in different rooms. That was not my request, but I didn't object. When the paperwork was complete, he waited near the building entrance. I stopped a few feet away. "The funds should reach you today," I said. "I received the notice. The retirement payment order is still processing. I know. Your share accrues according to the order. I know that too." He put his hands into his coat pockets. "The restaurant group found another investor. I hadn't asked. Are you still involved?" "No. I'm sorry." He looked at me closely. "Are you?" "Yes." The restaurant had been a poor risk for our house. That didn't mean I wanted him humiliated. He looked toward the parking lot. With $1,350 a month, I couldn't have carried the financing anyway. There it was, his acceptance, without an apology. "The plan depended on more," I said. "It depended on half. The court didn't agree. No." He rubbed one hand over his jaw. "I'm not asking to reconcile. I know. I don't want us pretending this was a misunderstanding. I don't either." He gave a short nod. "At least we agree on something. We agree on the calculation now. I accept the order." That was as far as he would go. He didn't admit he had misled Kayla. He didn't admit the application had treated my retirement as his business support. He didn't ask what the divorce had cost me. He accepted the number because it was final. We arranged one last time for him to collect the remaining boxes from the garage. No personal conversation, no dinner, no attempt to soften what had happened. Our marriage ended as a list of completed tasks. Kayla called that Saturday. She did not mention Craig. The following Wednesday, she called again and still did not mention him. On her third call, she asked whether the back steps had been repaired. "Not yet," I said. "I can help. I know you can. Can I come by Sunday?" I looked at her key on the kitchen counter. "You can come by," I said. "The key stays here for now, I understand." I wasn't sure she did. Sunday would show me. She arrived at 10 with work gloves, a tape measure, and 2 coffees. "I didn't know what you had," she said. "I have tools. You have military tools." "What does that mean?" "Everything is labeled. That helps you find things. It also makes the garage look nervous." I almost smiled. Kayla set the coffees on the porch railing and crouched beside the back steps. 2 boards had softened near the ends. The support underneath was still solid. "We can replace these," she said. "We?" "I watched 3 videos. That isn't training. It's more training than I had yesterday. We drove to the hardware store in separate cars. I paid for the boards and exterior screws. Kayla carried everything to her trunk before I could stop her. Back at the house, we measured twice. She cut the first board too long. "I thought you measured this," I said. "I did." "Which end? There are different ends?" I looked at her. I'm kidding. She wasn't. We cut it again. For 2 hours, we worked without discussing the divorce. Kayla removed old screws. I cleaned the exposed frame. We fitted the new boards and checked that each one sat level. Her phone rang while she was holding a board in place. She glanced at the screen. "It's Craig. I kept the drill in my hand. You can answer. I don't want to. That's your choice. She silenced the call and put the phone face down on the railing. A message arrived a minute later. Kayla didn't read it. We fastened the board. When we stopped for lunch, she checked her phone. Her face tightened. I'm not going to tell you what he said. Good. He asked me to ask you something. Tell him to contact me. I already did. She showed me her reply. Please communicate with Mom directly about the divorce or property. I'm not carrying messages. There was no commentary beneath it. No attempt to make him feel better. That's the right boundary, I said. I should have done it months ago. Yes. She accepted that. We ate sandwiches on the back steps after the paint dried enough to sit near them. I had bought whole wheat bread. Kayla had brought the bakery kind. She held up her sandwich. Practical bread. Free bread tastes better. She laughed. Then she became serious. I gave Craig your settlement percentage without understanding it. You repeated his description. I told people you were hiding behind Army rules. Which people? 2 friends. Nobody you know. That still matters. I know. I corrected it. What did you say? That I hadn't read the record and I was wrong. I folded the empty sandwich wrapper. Did you tell Craig? Yes. What did he say? I'm not carrying messages. She caught herself before giving me his answer. That was the second action, not an apology, a changed habit. When she left, I didn't return her key. She didn't ask for it. Craig came for the garage boxes the following Tuesday. He arrived alone and backed his car into the driveway. I opened the garage before he reached the side door. His boxes were stacked near the wall. I had marked each one with the room where I found it. He checked the labels. You didn't open these? No. He loaded them without help. The lamp from the bedroom was on his back seat. A towel had been wrapped around the shade. When the final box was inside, he handed me his house key. I won't need this. No. The first retirement payment should divide next month. That's what the processing notice says. If it doesn't, contact me directly. He looked toward the back steps. Those are new, 2 boards. You finally fixed them. Kayla helped. His expression shifted. She won't answer questions about you. That's appropriate. I asked whether the order had started. You can ask me. I am now. We stood beside his open car door. There was no warmth between us. There didn't need to be. Craig said, I accept the amount. I still don't agree with how you handled the marriage. I know. I don't expect you to agree with me either. I don't. He nodded. At least it's finished. The financial obligations aren't. They will be. He got into his car. I watched until he reached the end of the block, then closed the garage. The first divided payment arrived the next month. My statement showed the full disposable retired pay and the court-ordered deduction. $1,350.09 went to Craig. The rest came to me. There was no phone call from him, no accusation that the amount was wrong, no request for more. I paid the mortgage, utilities, insurance, and the balance on my legal bill. I moved a small amount into savings. The restaurant space near the Civic Center eventually opened under a different name. I saw the sign while driving downtown. I didn't stop. Craig continued consulting. Kayla told me that once, then caught herself. Sorry. That sounded like a report. It did. I won't do it again. She didn't. Our Sunday visits continued. At first she stayed for an hour, then 2. Sometimes we cooked. Sometimes she brought laundry because her apartment machines took too long. She didn't talk about Craig unless the subject was a shared family memory. When that happened, she didn't use the memory to excuse him or criticize me. One Sunday, she found the retirement photograph box near the living room. Can I look through these? Yes. She spread the photographs across the rug. There was one from the Civic Center ceremony. I stood near the platform in uniform. Kayla was visible in the second row. She picked it up. I was still angry with you there. I know. I thought all those people respected you because they didn't know what you were like at home. What am I like at home? She looked toward the kitchen. You buy bad bread. Anything else? You fix problems before people finish telling you how they feel. That's fair. And when you're scared, you make lists. I looked at the photographs. That's also fair. She placed the ceremony picture on top of the stack. I thought Craig's feelings proved his facts. I waited. They didn't. No. That doesn't mean his feelings were fake. No. She looked at me. That's the part I understand now. It was the first time she held both facts without asking me to remove one. Craig had contributed to our marriage. He had not contributed to the 16 service years before it. Kayla returned the photographs to the box in their original order. Before leaving, she stood beside the hook where her old key used to hang. "I'm not asking for it," she said. "I know. I just noticed. I kept it." "Why?" "Because returning it was a decision you made while speaking for someone else." She touched the empty hook. "I'd make a different decision now. I know that too." A month later, I gave her the key. I placed it in a plain envelope and handed it to her after dinner. "For emergencies," I said. "Not for proving anything." "Correct." She put it on her key ring. The following week, she used it because I had left my phone on the kitchen counter and missed our dinner reservation. She stepped inside, called my name, and found me asleep upstairs with a book on my chest. She did not search the office. She did not check my messages. She woke me, waited while I changed, and complained that my idea of a quick nap had nearly cost us a table. That was the third action. Trust returned in ordinary pieces. The house changed after Craig's last boxes left. I moved the dining table 6 inches toward the window. I put my retirement photograph on a shelf, not above the fireplace. I kept his preferred coffee mugs until I realized neither Kayla nor I used them. Then I donated them. The mortgage payment remained higher. I postponed replacing the upstairs windows until spring. On cold nights, I used rolled towels along the frames. Retirement itself was quieter than the ceremony suggested. I woke early for months. At 6, I would reach for a uniform that no longer needed wearing. Eventually, I learned to make coffee without checking the time. Carrie sent one final administrative notice confirming the retired pay division was active. I filed it with the order. She had performed her function and returned to her work. Judge Palmer's written order remained in my locked case. So did the copy of the home equity application. I kept both because they belonged to the same sequence of decisions. One had asked for my consent before I understood the plan. The other recorded the result after everyone had been allowed to speak. Kayla came for dinner on the first Sunday of the next month. She brought the bakery bread and vanilla yogurt. "You remembered," I said. "I write things down now. That helps." "Don't sound too pleased." After dinner, she washed the plates while I dried them. Her house key lay beside her phone on the counter. She didn't mention Craig, neither did I. If this story moved you, subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. After Kayla left, I checked the back door and turned off the kitchen light. The new boards held firm beneath my feet when I carried the recycling outside. A thin layer of frost had formed along the railing. I went back through the quiet house. In the office, the retirement binder stood on the bottom shelf. The tabs were still straight. Craig's side of the desk was empty except for the lamp cord he had forgotten. I wrapped the cord and placed it in a small envelope with his name. He could collect it or ask me to mail it. That was a task for another day. I unlocked the document case. The application copy was near the front. My signature line remained blank. The certified court order rested behind it, marked with the service fraction and the exact monthly share. I carried both to the desk. The drawer opened smoothly. I removed old pens, a bank brochure, and the loan officer's business card. The card went into the shredder. Then I placed the unsigned home equity application beneath the certified court order in a closed desk drawer.